fast.
It's good.
Wait, don't wait on me here. Whenever I'm waiting on the clock. You guys ready? I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Moving on to item 1.03, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved to approve and seconded. Is there any comment? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Chair votes aye and the agenda is passed. We've got a student board member tonight and CJ's got an introduction for him.
Yeah, so just want to welcome our student board member for the evening. This is Sydney Borg. Yes, Sydney Borg, and got a little bit of a bio to share with everyone about Sydney. So Sydney was one of multiple students from Elko High School Spring Creek High School, sorry. We got them coming from both locations throughout the year, from Spring Creek High School. So some things about Sydney for your awareness. She is in the National Honor Society as the service chair. Sydney is a member of the Spring Creek High School High Expectations Choir. She's an AP Government student. She's a member of the Spring Creek High School Key Club. She's a member of the Tri-M Music Honors Society, and she is the president of her church youth group. She currently has an impressive 3.975 GPA, and she plans on attending college coming this fall 2023. So impressive resume thus far, Sydney. No surprise why you were one of the select chosen for our meetings. We're really grateful to have you here with us and just want to extend a warm welcome to you and appreciate your time, and also get your parents here. So I'm sure they're real proud of you and welcome them as well. And thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're gonna skip item 1.04. The recipients couldn't be here tonight, so we'll move on to 1.05, recognition of September STARS recipients.
That's me. Do you want to come up? Brandy, do you want to read what you wrote or do you want me to do it? Do you want, it doesn't, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Our September stars were Carleen Goodell and Charles Pratt. And you may have already seen the paper. We've already given the awards, but we wanted to recognize her at a board meeting. So if you want to step up to the front. You don't have it memorized. I do not have it. And Brandy Johnson is the one who wrote in and nominated.
Ms. Goodale is not only an exceptional teacher, she is a fantastic coworker. Goodale is always willing to lend a hand to students and staff. Students feel safe and supported and know that if they have a question or need help with resources for a project or just a good book recommendation, Goodale is always there. She also does homework club before and after school to help students get caught up on grades. Students know that she is always there to support them in any way that they need. She is a member of the Computer Science Ambassadors and has become an excellent computer science teacher, something she never saw herself doing. She has fully embraced her new media science position and has become an advocate for computer science education for all students. Where most teachers would be terrified to take on an entirely new subject area, let alone for K-6, she has embraced it wholeheartedly and has inspired her students to become just as passionate about computer science as she is. She has truly created a love of learning in her students and in our staff as well. When it comes to the staff, she's a literacy coach, helping ensure that teachers have all the resources they need in order to promote literacy for all of our students. Goodale is always a friendly face and a compassionate leader in our school. We would truly be lost without her.
Congratulations. Go. At the time, we didn't have them yet, but we also had, she got flowers and then a $20 or a $50 gift certificate to Amazon and then a framed certificate, but we also have a $25 voucher to Starbucks so that you can get your caffeine on. And thank you for everything.
Well done. Congratulations.
And if I can read Charles's
Yep.
as well, okay. And then Charles, who couldn't be here tonight, is a network technician for the school district, and he was nominated by a colleague who wishes to remain anonymous. But here's what that person had to say. It is safe to say Elko County School District employs many that deserve recognition. Thank you, STARS, for giving us the chance to highlight those individuals. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to nominate Mr. Charles Pratt, Network Technician for ECSD. Mr. Pratt's duties far exceed my scope of knowledge, but that is exactly why he's such an integral part of the school district. When we think of education, we tend to think of educators in general, but what about those that assist the educators? Technology, quite literally, puts learning in the hands of students. It affects the lives of students and staff of ECSD daily. And without the knowledge and experience of the network technicians, most of us wouldn't even be able to get our days started. You may not see Mr. Pratt every day, but rest assured he is there, assisting not just one school or one building, but the entire district. He is doing his job with passion, professionalism, and with a huge smile. You might just be one person in the big scheme of things, Mr. Pratt, but truly you are a huge part of what keeps this exceptional school district running. So thank you to Charles as well. And just a thank you to Total Eye Care, Anonymous Donor, and Keith Frayne, I think is how you say his name, from Maverick Gaming. They gave the gift cards. So really appreciate their help with that, and the committee as well for helping to choose those people. And we will be having October stars here pretty soon. So look for that.
Thank you. Moving on to item 1.06, receive a presentation on NRPDP activities in Elko County School District.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Negrete, and I am the director of the Northeastern Nevada RPDP, and I'm here with Annie Hicks, who is our assistant director. Thank you for the invitation, board members, and CJ for asking us to give a short presentation on the professional learning opportunities that we are partnering with Elko County School District this year to provide. I am going to give you like a 60-second background about the program as a whole before I hand it over to Annie to speak more specifically to the professional learning in Elko County School District specifically. So you'll see that Elko is one of 6 school districts that our organization serves there in the green. There's also a Northwest RPDP and a South RPDP that covers the other districts in the state. We do work together with them quite closely. However, we are a state-funded organization established in 1999. So this legislative session, are 24 years strong. So that's exciting for us. We do serve all the districts in the state free of charge because the state funds us directly. So that's an opportunity for districts to receive high quality professional learning free of charge. And we serve upon request. So we do not push out anything specific from our organization, but we provide service upon request from all of the districts or schools who reach out to us. We are governed by a regional governing board who is in charge of just the Northeast region. And we are overseen by a statewide coordinating council that oversees all 3 RPDPs at the state level. And that's my 60-second. Oh, no, I want to share one more thing. One more slide. We do all of this and cover all of that, all of those districts with the people here that you see on the screen. So I wanted to make sure to give a shout out to all of the staff that we have who are highly skilled in their respective fields. And Trina is here live, so I didn't have to put her on the screen, I guess. But the others are listening from home. And so I just think that they deserve some recognition because they certainly, as you can imagine, are going in many different directions to cover all of the green portion of the state that you saw there. And now I'll send it over to Annie.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. We're really honored to be able to share the ways that we're partnering specifically with Elko County this year. So what we've done is we've broken it down into kind of category, how we are serving the district. And so the first thing we wanted to point out is that we're providing district-wide professional learning for administrators. And this is a process that started last year and it has really exploded and we have really enjoyed doing it. So as you can see on the slide, there are 3 specific professional learning opportunities that we've developed. Using the NEPF as a tool for teachers' growth is a place where we work with administrators using the Nevada Educator Performance Framework as a tool to have critical conversations that really lift up and elevate instructional practice. And then we've expanded that initial opportunity from last year, this year, adding a second year where we're working with administrators using the Nevada School Administrator Instructional Leadership Framework to think about how we grow ourselves as leaders so that we are better equipped to lead in our school communities. And then we're excited to start a new opportunity that's kind of in motion, and that's developing prospective instructional leaders. So this is something where individuals who have an admin credential or who are interested in becoming an administrator can apply to be part of a cohort. And within that, we'll look at what does it mean to be a leader? And also, what does it mean to lead within Elko County? So doing some real district-specific training and opportunities for them to develop skills so that when openings come up, you've got a large pool of potential candidates. So we're pretty excited about that. Another way that we're supporting Elko County is through professional learning for educators, classroom teachers. And one of the big ways we do that is through RISE. And some of you may be familiar with that program, but it's the Retain, Induct, Support, and Encourage program that we do for all new teachers at the beginning of the school year. And then as those teachers get into their school communities, we work with the mentors at each school site so that then those mentors can support the new staff and help them throughout the school year. We also have been working with the media science specialists. So a big shout out to the STARS recipient who is one of those individuals. And they are in their second year together working on how to provide support and instruct on the new Nevada academic content standards for computer science. And then we also are in year 4 of working with computer science ambassadors. And so again, these are individuals at their school communities who are really advocating for computer science instruction and supports in a classroom context and helping teachers know how to embed it, because that's a new thing for our state. We also just provide professional learning support for an entire school community. And so this year we're really excited because we are working with 10 different schools across the district to help them facilitate and co-facilitate the continuous improvement process, which is the new state initiative to make school improvement something we do throughout the year, not just at the beginning. And then I think we have one more. Yes, so our individual school requests. So as Sarah noted, we are a group that operates based on requests. So that can come from a teacher, a principal, a district leader. But this year within your district, we are specifically working with some schools on PLC structures and support. So that's a professional learning community that's working together to improve their practice. We are also providing the Nevada Educator Performance Framework, which is really good teaching practice. We're providing that kind of support for new teachers. We also are working with teachers to improve their literacy instruction. We do individual coaching, so something that a teacher wants to grow in, they can reach out and get that from us. And then sometimes we'll offer workshops at the request of a school. So we just finished one called What Do I Say When students pose really challenging questions or conundrums and you're trying to figure out how to navigate that as the adult in the room. So it's really exciting and we're really honored to have the opportunity to support educators and administrators in our district. And I'm going to turn it back over. Oh, no, just like Sarah, I had one more slide. I didn't quite have it memorized. Some of the things we provide that impact teachers and administrators in Elko County, but also impact across our region and state, is that we do provide licensure courses that are needed to remove provisions on Nevada licenses. We also provide a computer science endorsement coursework trajectory, so someone can get that endorsement through us. And then we offer various workshops for professional learning hours, which allows a teacher or principal to renew their license. So now it's Sarah's turn.
Well, it says thank you, but I'm not done. So we do want to thank CJ for inviting us here to be on the agenda tonight to share with you. I also want to thank Ray Smith and Candace and Paul, who have been great partners with us as we have been partnering together and working through. We meet with them frequently. We're always on the calendar with the district leadership to make sure that what we're providing is in line with their vision. And so I want to make sure to note that they are great partners in this work with us. And I also want to warn you, potentially, I will be sending an evaluation by December 1st. In statute, we do a yearly evaluation of our program, and then it goes through various stakeholders for approvals. And by December 1st, by statute, I will be sending it to the president of the school board and the superintendent of each of the districts where we serve. So just make note that you'll be receiving 200 plus more pages of information about our program and the results that we had from the projects that we did last year. So this is kind of a look ahead at what we're doing this year, and what you receive via email will be kind of a retrospective of the results we received last year in various projects. And now I will say thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, ladies, very much. We appreciate it. You'd mentioned that you're working with 10 schools in regards to the CIP. Is 10 the capacity, or did only 10 reach out to you?
That's a good question. We actually offered it to all schools in the region. So not just in Elko County School District. So 10 schools in Elko County School District we are working with. And those are the schools who chose to work with us. It was opt-in. No one was forced to do this. So it was an opt-in opportunity. And it turned out to be about the right capacity. And we've had borderline interest, and we're like, okay, we will meet your needs, but we are pretty full. So our ultimate goal is to kind of work really closely with some of these schools this year, and then kind of gradual release where we can work really closely with some other schools in the next year, and just kind of keep that rotating throughout the different schools so that we have capacity and we are serving alongside the schools who opt in.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Second question I had, if I may, the folks that, from the teacher standpoint, do they need to be a licensed teacher, or can our long-term subs also utilize your services?
Long-term subs are absolutely welcome, as are paraprofessionals and counselors, any educator in Nevada, whether they're ARL, long-term sub, certified, classified, paraprofessional, all of those are welcome to participate, and we will serve requests for those groups as well.
Great, thank you very much again, ladies, and your team.
Before we go on, I would just like to say thank you. And I wish we could have you just for Elko County, because I know you guys are busy running all over the place, but thank you for the work you do. I know it's appreciated. I hear good things about you from teachers. And so thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to echo that sentiment and say thank you. Your passion is obvious, and I think it's a great benefit to the district.
Thank you.
More questions? Well, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 1.07, presentation from Ray Smith on a Nevada report card.
I'm glad I was here when Sarah turned around and said my name. I just pried myself away from the Elko Spring Creek soccer game. It's tied 0-0 at halftime. My son's the starting goalie for Spring Creek, so I'm on the edge of my seat right now. So grab this real quick. I'm going to do my best to stay focused on the task at hand here and keep my mind on what we have to talk about. So let me really quickly pull up that website. So as the agenda item says, the purpose here is to go through the Nevada report card, which was mentioned last meeting. The results just went live with the most recent data the Thursday after our last meeting. And so we wanted to take a few minutes here to go over some of the information there, give at least an overview, a highlight of what can be found there. And I'm just going through our agenda here this evening because we have the website there. So I want everybody to be able to see that. The other way that you can access this is just to do a quick Google search for Nevada report card and it will pull up this website. So before I get into it, just a couple of things to talk to everybody about. So I kind of equate this website to the ClearGov one that Julie has put on our website with all the financial information, in that it contains a plethora of information, right? Almost to the point that sometimes you can get yourself lost in it. So, for the sake of time tonight, there's going to probably be some things that we may, not cover in great depth. We could be here forever looking at all this data and drilling it down to, almost the most minute detail. So just keep in mind that, the purpose tonight is to just sort of give that high level overview of what's there to you guys as board members, to the folks listening, the people here this evening, to hopefully give at least enough insight so that you're able to navigate the website yourself, find the information that you might be looking for, because really when you start getting into it, you can start very broadly and narrow it down to the point that you can almost get yourself lost in there. So if though, as we're going through this, any of the board members, if you guys are so inclined and would like to have more of a individual session on information that's there, I'd be glad to do that. I'm here most days, so give me a call, send me an email. We can set something up. I could come to where you're at. I don't have an issue with that at all. So anyways, that's the first thing I wanted to say. So the first thing you'll notice as we go to the webpage here is that when you first click on that site, you'll get this pop-up window here. Gives you a couple of I don't know if there disclaimers necessarily, but some information about the 21-22 data. And so I just want to briefly touch on that. The first one is that star ratings were not calculated for schools this year. There is index scores that are given in the Nevada School Performance Framework. That's what the NSPF that they mentioned here stands for. And typically those index scores, from 1 to 27, for example, is a 1-star school, 28 to 45 is 2-star, and so on and so forth. This year, you can tell there, or you can see there why there was a waiver. So there's index scores, but there's not corresponding star ratings to go with them. Now, you can, of course, look at what the rating was in previous years and do some extrapolating and probably figure out where that would fall. But it's a little bit confusing when you first look at it because it shows an index score and generally you would see the star rating next to that, and they're not there this year. So that explains that. The second thing there is that there are some school designations. You can see the terms there: CSI, TSI, ATSI. Those designations are back in effect. They were not in effect the last 2 school years. They are now. The next one is related to chronic absenteeism rates. And so through Senate Bill 249 there, you can see they were adjusting the chronic absenteeism rate, that they did not include absences that were coded as medically professional. So MDP is the code that we use in Infinite Campus for that. And when we get into this a little bit, I'll show you where that information is and how that relates. But that's mentioned there. And then I guess this last one is probably what would be considered a disclaimer that, there are times where they've identified specific impacts based on the COVID pandemic. So there are parts where that's highlighted or outlined. Okay, so every time you go to the webpage, you'll get those disclaimers first off the bat. Oh, and the other thing is I'm going to do my best. I've spent, since these went live on that Thursday, I can't even count how many hours in here working, talking with principals, digging into it. So, sometimes after you've spent a ton of time looking at something, you have a tendency to go a little quick. So if you find me doing that, please give me a signal, slow me down. I don't want to go too fast, but again, I also want to be respectful of our time. So just please feel free to interject, board members, if that's necessary. So, okay. So before we get into some of the other details, just a quick outline of the site itself and some of the features that might be helpful for people who are going to the site. The first one is this link up at the top. It's a help button. If you go there, there are a couple of different things that you can find. There's a manual about the Nevada report card itself. If you click on that, it opens up, I think it's a 35 to 38 page document that I'm going to try to condense down verbally tonight. But if I don't go over something or you have questions, that manual is a good place to look. The next thing is some FAQs, gives you some details about, like I said, frequently asked questions, I guess, right? So that's a good resource. And then even for those of us probably who've been in the education world, but for those of you definitely who maybe are not quite as familiar, this link can be really, really helpful, this terminology. It's basically a glossary of all the acronyms that we use. And you'll see when we get into this, there's a lot of them. And it's actually kind of funny if you look at a few of them, some of the definitions contain so many acronyms, you have to look up the acronyms in the definition to figure it out. But that's going to be a very, very helpful resource should you start digging into this and have questions of what those 3 or 4 letters stand for. So that's the first feature that I wanted to make everybody aware of. The second one is right underneath the help button, resources here. I'll click on that. And probably the first one is the most likely to be something that's going to be meaningful to everyone. And this is the Nevada School Performance Framework Manual. This is a 74-page document that contains all of the details, all the way down to the specifics of how each of these achievement scores, absenteeism rates, everything that we're going to look at are calculated. If you're a data numbers computer person, it's a great read. If not, it's a little dry. But that's a good resource that might be helpful, especially if you have specific questions about how any value that's on there, achievement level is calculated. That gives you all those details. Okay, and then lastly, as far as features, I do want to point out that there is the ability to just at the click of a button, change this to Spanish, so that if that's your preferred language, you can look through this website and do all the same things that we're going to do in English, because I'd have a hard time in Spanish, as we found out today. You can do that in Spanish as well. So those are the features. Questions on that? Board? Okay, so then the next thing, we'll get into the website itself. Once you get through all that, there are basically 3 different boxes here. You can see this top one. There it says, I want to see state data. You can click on that, and that'll give you information at that really broad state level. We're not going to click on that one because we don't, it just again be too much. Then the other option that you have is to look just by district. So I can select our district here, and then I can even drill down to individual school, should I want to. And then the third one is I want to compare schools, and I'll talk with you about that one at the end. So what I'd like to do for again, time's sake and just sort of ease of understanding tonight is just stick with the district data, or at least start there, but just keep in mind that everything that we have on here that's available on here at the district level is available at those other 2 levels, the state level also, or down at an individual school level. Okay, so anything any report that I pull up or data that I pull up is available at both of those levels as well. Okay, so for right now, and I forgot to mention this, you can also select different years. You can go all the way back to 2016, 2017 if you wanted to do that. It's not necessary to do the years right there. As you get into this, you can also select multiple years on the reports that you get to. So, but if you wanted to, you could do it that way. So let me double check my notes here. I want to make sure I'm covering as much as I can without missing anything. Okay, so I think I'm ready. So we're going to click go. I just selected Elko County as the district. I clicked go. It takes you to this next screen, and it'll pull up this box that is Elko at a glance. Again, if you do the state level, it'll say Nevada at a glance. If you do a school level, it'll say Wells Combined School at a glance, or Wells Elementary, or whatever school you happen to pick. And then there has all of sort of a broad overview of a number of different data sources. And you can see there enrollment, number of teachers, expenditures, chronic absenteeism rates, total enrollment, all of that sort of stuff. And as I hover over each one, you can certainly see that there's a hyperlink there that I can click on any of those, and it'll take me to a little more detailed information about that. So I'm going to start with the enrollment one, just so you can see what that looks like. And really, all it does when I click it is scroll me about 2 scrolls down the page. So you could scroll down as well if you wanted to. But when I click on that, you can see it takes me down to a chart. It's got a little more detail about our enrollment. Again, it compares, oops, I got to scroll down so we can see the key. I guess we can't see it all at once. I apologize for that. This is ethnicity breakdown, our district, and then compared to the state level as well. And then you can see, so this, the default when I click on that is just enrollment and diversity, but you can see here on this left side, there's a number of choices, other information related to enrollment, average daily attendance, CTE enrollment, some chronic absenteeism things. And if I click on any of those, it'll bring up a chart just obviously with different data, but very similar to that will, for the most part, compare Elko to the state. Okay. I wanted to show you real quickly. So again, like I said, when you click that link, it takes you directly there, but it's just down a little ways. You can see as I scroll back up, it's right up there. I wanted to quickly show you graduation rate. When you click that one, it shows you a chart that compares multiple years of Elko County's graduation rate to the state rate. And again, on the left-hand side here, clicking different links will take you to different data sources, different calculations for your graduation rate, a 5-year dropout rate. And they all have different charts that show you that information. Okay. And then just one other thing to note, I'm not going to go there yet because this link takes us to another page, and I don't want to get off of all of the features of this first page yet. But for all of those hyperlinks in this at a glance table, there is an option down here to click a more detailed report, and that's where you can really get into the real detailed stuff. And so sort of the way that I look at it is that at a glance is kind of your real big picture first look. When you click the link, it takes you to this sort of secondary level where you've got a little more detail. And then when you click this, which like I said, will take you to a different site, you can really start drilling it down. Okay. And we'll do that in just a minute. But again, like I said, before I leave this page, I don't want to jump too much because I think that's hard to follow. So when you are on this at a glance page, one other option that you have here up on the upper left-hand side is this accountability report card. So I'm going to click on that. And when you go there, if it loads, there it goes, you can click this download tab. And the reason I'm showing this is because I know that there are some people that really prefer something tangible, something to hold in your hands. And so this is a printable PDF report of basically all of the digital information. Try to close. There we go. That I'll show you here in a few minutes that you're able to find on the more detailed report. You can see this for Elko County as a 27-page document, and you may need to get your magnifying glass out for some of these charts that they have on there, but it has basically 25 pages worth of data of anything that you might want to look at. And so the other nice thing about this printable one is it very quickly and easily has all of our schools listed there too. So if, like I said, for whatever reason, that's your preferred method of interacting with data and you want something printed out and to hold in your hand, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that that was available. Okay, so go back. So again, just on the main district data at a glance page here. Am I going too quickly? Going all right? Okay. Okay. Let me check my notes, make sure I'm on the right spot. Okay. So what I wanted to show you then was, again, down it, these are all hyperlinks for our proficiency rates. And so I'm going to click on elementary ELA just as an example. And this is, again, that same link that you'll see with any of those sites where you can go to a more detailed report. And I'm going to click on that, and that's going to take us to a different site. It's called Data Interaction, which is a pretty fitting nickname because it's pretty interactive and it contains a lot of data. So again, just really quickly, all the features on this individual page, because I clicked proficiency assessment data, in this window here, it automatically defaults to assessment. If I do the drop down, You can see all those other links on the at a glance spot, the graduation rates, our personnel information, all of that sort of stuff. Those are there also. So if I click the link on at a glance for graduation rates, it would default me to this page. So I could even change to those pages now if I wanted to. But I wanted you to know that's there. So we're gonna leave it on assessment because that's what I want to look at here really quickly. Then you just have some options of ways to run a report. This group summary report is more of a linear, just has numbers. The second option here is a graph version of the same thing. Shows the exact same data. It's just basically how you prefer to look at it. Do you like to see it in a bar graph, or do you just like to see it lined out linearly? I think that's a word. I prefer the first one. So as long as you guys are okay with it, I'm going to leave that one checked just so I don't get myself confused moving forward. Then the other thing that you get to do is you can select the assessment that you want to look at. One important thing that I'd like to point out right here, and again, this is where that glossary becomes very helpful. CRT here stands for Criterion Reference Test. In Elko and in Nevada, that's the Smarter Balanced assessments. So CRT stands for the type of assessment that we're giving. It's an assessment that's based on a set of standards that compares students to those standards and their proficiency levels. So something really important to understand there. CCR, College and Career Ready. In Nevada, that's the ACT. The NA is the Nevada Alternative Assessment. That's assessment for our most profoundly disabled special education students who, for whatever reason, their disability excludes them from being able to participate in the standard assessment. So those results are there. The ELPA is our English language proficiency assessment for our English as a second language learners. Again, CRT, Criterion Reference Test. And then there's some information from 6-7 years ago of assessments that were given there. And so all that information is still here also. So I'm going to leave it on the SBAC grades 3 through 8 for ELA and math for this one. Next option that you have is if you want to look at just 1 year's data, or if you'd like to look at multiple years data, you can select any or all of those so that you can look and then do a comparison. Again, simplicity's sake, we're just going to keep it as simple as we can and leave it with 1 year on there. Here's where you select what information you want to look at on the chart. So obviously I'm going to take Elko. We're going to click the blue arrow that moves it over to the right-hand side there. It defaults to have state data in there. If you don't want that, you can click on it and you can remove it as well. And you can remove anything that you want to. As you move it over to the right-hand side, that's where it will show on the report that we're gonna run. Okay, questions on that to this point? Okay, so I'm gonna leave the state and Elko in there. I will hit the report here. It'll generate this information. Again, like I said, this is the version that I like to look at. If you wanted to do the graph, it would be to show the same information, but it would just show it as a bar graph with lots of nice colors and things on it. And so this is the part where you can really get yourself lost in this stuff. You can really start looking at it as you get partway through it and you go, well, this is what I was looking for, but I'm curious about that. And so you can kind of run yourself around a little bit if you really want to. But what I wanted to point out here is that from this level, this is where you can really disaggregate all of this down to really just shy, basically, of the individual student level. And obviously, individual student results aren't on there because that's confidential. But you can really drill it down to look for whatever you may happen to be wanting to find. So I'll just quickly show you a couple of things that you can do there. So I'm just going to click on the Elko, and it gives me an option to disaggregate by, and then you can see, hopefully I can get it all on the screen there. There's all these different determining eligibility factors: gender, ethnicity, IEP, EL, English learner. IEP is an individual education plan, special education. FRL is free and reduced lunch. Here's again where the terminology comes in handy. All sorts of various things that you could look at. So you could break the entire district data down by any of those things. Or if you wanted to, you could drill to schools. So if I click that button, you can see that it if I can get it to scroll, will show me information for every school that we have here in the district. Then I'm going to just kind of show you what it is capable of. Go back to the district data, disaggregate by gender. So it breaks it out. I wish this was shown a little bigger, but female and male. If I wanted to look at the number of, I can disaggregate the female data down further by ethnicity. So now you can see up here, it's showing students who are female by ethnicity. It's got all those. Why is that so small? I wish I could fix that. I apologize about that. And you can keep going. You could really drill it down to, as far as you want to. And that's really what and I'll get into this a little bit more, but that's what our schools are currently doing as they're working on, Annie and Sarah mentioned the continuous improvement process and the school performance plans. And our schools are really looking at using a lot of this information to drill down into their own individual data to make decisions about what they're going to put in those plans and what they're going to do to make some improvements as the year goes on. Okay. So that's a really quick, like I said, I know it's very fast, but the point I want to drive home is that really whatever you happen to be wanting to find, the data is there if you can disaggregate it appropriately and get yourself there. Okay. Questions from the board there? Okay, so I'll go back. I'm almost done, I promise. Sorry, I apologize. It's taken so long. I'm trying to get through this. So again, back at the main, sorry, let me get back to the main page there. There it is. So again, remember when I was there on this main page, I just clicked Elko as a district. I didn't select a school, but if you so wanted to, you could choose any of our school and all that information disaggregated down is available. You could look at just individual schools if you wanted to as well. And then the last feature on the main page here is this opportunity where it says I want to compare schools. So if you click on that, it brings up every school in the state alphabetized, and you can look by just elementary schools, just middle schools, just high schools. It does have a feature to sort by star rating, but as I mentioned at the beginning, that's not in place. So that doesn't really work this year. So don't do it that way. And then the other option, which is probably a more efficient way to do it, of course, is to just search for a school that you might want to look for. It'll bring that school up, and it says, you see there, it says you can compare 3 schools. So I could select that school. I could search for Elko High School, select that school, and then I could pick a third one if I wanted to as well. And when you click the compare button, it brings up an overview. It's basically, again, that at a glance demographic information about each school on the front page. And what's nice about this is it kind of lays them next to each other, so you can do a little bit easier comparing perhaps. And then there's various tabs as well. Students, so the breakout of the ethnicity, the transiency rate, achievement results, graduation rates, and financial information again, so expenditures per school. So again, lots and lots of information. I think I covered everything that I wanted to at least for sure touch on my notes here. Like I said, no, I know it was a lot. I know it was quick. Questions, comments?
Questions?
I'll just say I had the opportunity, going through the link and checking out the website earlier. And I just, like we've seen here, it looks very, very easy to use and plenty of information. I think between this and what we have listed on the webpage regarding our financial stuff, I think our transparency scores have gone way up. So good job on that.
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Fantastic. Again, like I said, Matt, maybe. No, am I jumping the gun? Okay. Like I said, sure. Yep. Well, like I said, you know how to get a hold of me, and I'm here to help. And if I don't know the answer, I will do a little digging, and I will make some phone calls or talk to some people who can help to get us some answers.
And just want to reiterate, as Ray said, every one of our schools is deep in the process right now of pouring through this data, figuring out what their areas of most need are and where they want to focus this year on getting better. Every campus, regardless of whether it's in Elko County or anywhere, has a desire to get better, and they'll pick those needs based on the new CIP, and in some of the cases with the help of NNRPDP and other people they've partnered with, and within the next about month they'll be finishing that up, and we plan on reporting out to you on how those SPPs fleshed out and where we're trying to head in those different schools all around the district. So yeah, we're kind of in the middle of it right now, but appreciate Ray giving you a little intro into the rabbit hole that is the Nevada report card.
It's good information though, and we can't move forward unless we have the information and know where we need to improve. So
Thank you for that, CJ, because as you were talking, I just got a text, Spring Creek 1-0.
yay.
Thanks, Ray.
Did you have any questions?
All right, moving on to 1.08. This is agenda item input from public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. It's a non-action item. So we've got public comment here. Misty Adkins. Candace.
I'm here tonight because it was implied at the August 23rd meeting that the sudden resignations of 3 board members over a year ago were the result of an NRS violation. I feel that this board and the public should know what really happened a year ago when I suddenly resigned. First of all, I was not removed from office. Okay, I want to make that perfectly clear. I did not commit any crimes. I did not violate any NRS statutes. What did happen is that I was lied to, I was threatened, I was bullied, and I was coerced into submitting my resignation from an elected official county position. One allegation was that I violated state law by voting for the reopening plan. If the allegation against me was for my vote, then why are 2 board members who voted exactly the same way that I did still on the board? And 2 board members who voted against the reopening plan were also asked to resign. During my time on the board, there were other instances where we had to revisit a topic and change the outcome. Why wasn't that an option in this case? I was personally threatened with jail time, possible large fines, which could harm my family's business, and ethics violations. None of those allegations were true, but I was told that unions, very powerful unions, could make them appear to be true. In the end, the complaint that was filed against me only mentioned my name 1 time, and that was in regard to an ethic violation, which has been proven since then to be completely false. I was also told that they were looking for board members that would rubber stamp anything that was brought to them. So I just want to conclude by saying that through lies and deception, this board is pretty much mainly an appointed board. And ironically, you guys all now seem to be against that. Thank you for your time.
Robert Liner.
Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse because I was actually out at Spring Creek Elko JV game yelling. So Robert Linhart, current school board candidate and former school board member. I also want to make it clear that we were not removed for doing illegal things. We were lied to in order to get us to resign. And if you were in that room, you would have known this, along with all the info we found out over the last year. And if there's a recording out there, we'd love to have it. Good friend of mine told me once, they will always accuse you exactly of what they are doing. And the complaint that was supposedly sent to all these agencies stated that three of the remaining 5 trustees are active members of the Parents of Elko County's Facebook group. With the 2 resignations of the 2 board members, there will be an active effort by the remaining board members to recruit from that group and appoint them as additional board members. So that being said, you guys did exactly what you guys were accusing of us of doing. So you got to remember one thing, you guys work for the people, you work for us. A lot of you guys don't like that, and I worked for the people when I was here. And I'll end it with this. There's actually 2 more things. There's actually somebody in this room that actually encouraged the state to come in and take over the school board when we were told that that's what we didn't want. And there's one person in this room that actually encouraged the state to come in and take it. So that being said, and I hope Rob is listening tonight, there was a target on our backs by numerous people in this district. And you know what I think of when I hear targets? Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the board? Okay. Yep.
My name is Misty Atkins, for the record. I'm also running for School Board District 1 against Susan Neal. After hearing what you heard tonight, I know that I had a conversation with one of the appointed members right when they were appointed, and I was asked to give them time, to give all of you time to prove yourselves and to prove that you're not like who was left on the board. And I have to say that I'm thoroughly disappointed. I've heard people question things here and there, but to really stand up and push against what you're being, it feels like, as we're witnessing, being told to go ahead and rubber stamp. I'm truly disappointed. I really was hoping that people would stand up and be different. But with everything that you just heard from the previous people that were up here, I really hope that you look into that information and that you do some research and maybe do some Freedom of Information Act requests, maybe to the Attorney General, to see if you can get a hold of the person that is in the document from the person that is in this room that was actually asking the state to take over the school board and to fire the people that were sitting here. So if you stand up and you do the right thing, you will be supported. If you don't, you're going to have people running against you. And it's nothing personal. We just expected more.
Is there anybody else wish to address the board? Okay, we'll move on to item 2.01. Review and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JGD, student welfare to student transportation.
I will go ahead and intro this. So I want to say it was the last meeting in September, or sorry, in August, get my month straight, August. We talked quite a bit about transportation out in specifically the Wine Cup Gamble area and Wells and Wendover. We more or less came to a conclusion on how we were going to resolve that issue, but given direction to me to look at some potential revisions to policy JGD. So in the documents here, you have what the old version looked like. You have the red line, which shows all the changes, either removals or additions. And then you have the new version, which is everything without all the red and blue. So when you look through the red line, and I know you all have, when you look through that, it looks like there's quite a lot of changes. I'm going to tell you there aren't that many. I invite any questions and I can kind of explain why they look like there are a lot more than there are. But most of that is an organizational change. So literally any space you make or punctuation or whatever all has to be noted in a change. So much of what you see is moving one thing from one part of the policy to another just because it made more sense from an organizational standpoint. The edits that are of most interest, at least I think that are of most interest, are one of the big topics of discussion we had at that date was that our mileage reimbursement rate for people who have to transport their own kids due to lack of financial feasibility for the district, that rate was very outdated. At that point, it was 17.5 cents per per paved mile and 20 cents per unpaved mile. So we reviewed that. I checked at every district across the state. 2 or 3 never got back to me, but I did hear from the rest, and it varies anywhere from less than what we were doing. Some were at about 15 cents a mile, and others are doing whatever the current GSA rate is. And so to say the numbers we came up with of 35 cents for paved and 40 for unpaved, to say it's arbitrary is not exactly right, but there was no, we just kind of settled on something that was definitely more than what we had before, but not just going to the absolute maximum we want to charge or reimburse. Definitely open to consideration of other numbers if people are open for it, but given that we were just given direction to consider increasing that, we went ahead and doubled what it was before. One of the little things that kind of stuck in my mind was Shannon Glasscock, who did come forward to make a lot of these requests in her narrative about what their experience was last year under the previous policy, or I guess the currently existing policy. But she said it cost them roughly double what it was. So in my mind, that meant, well, if that's what the cost was double for that trip, then we'll go ahead and double it and try to be fair, understanding that costs are high for fuel right now. So again, I'm not absolutely like married to those numbers, but that's what we're proposing, and you can feel free to contest and give other suggestions if you'd like. The last one, which is an addition to the policy, but not a change in practice, we just wanted to make sure it was front and center in the policy, is item number 4, which says the district will not provide transportation, mileage contracts, or subsistence payments for students who have been granted zoning variances. The variance application that people have filled out for years has a clause on it that says people attending under variances are not eligible for reimbursement. So again, something we have done and we continue to do, but it made more sense for that to be up front and center in the policy, so someone wasn't kind of gotcha surprised by it in the process once they tried to make adjustments and new plans, only to find out, wait a minute, we can't get a reimbursement on a variance. So that's in there. And then the rest of it is all very much semantic, formatting, location, wording changes, that sort of thing. So that is the proposed revision to policy JGD as we were directed to bring forth. And yeah, I'll let you take it from there, Ira.
Questions, comments?
I have a comment. I'm generally in support of the policy. We talked about this. I'd like to do something more. I actually feel like we could do even a little better than that with as far as the mileage rate for a couple of reasons. One of them, it goes, this is something that affects people directly. This is going to be money in their pockets, food on their table type of thing. So it's, though generally, I haven't rubber stamped things. I've contested against money and against spending, this is something I'm actually in favor of. So I would like to see us talk about getting something, even like when I can claim mileage out of town, that's what, 53 or 56 cents, something like that, which is roughly triple. Our yearly expenditure on this was right around $19,000. As written here would take it to right around 40 or 38. My proposal would take it up to around 60. But one thing that I think that might help us do is to help us retain students from rural areas. People that are homeschooled right now may reconsider and get those kids back into the program. And if that happens, then we get our enrollment up and that can help us recoup some of that expenditure. So I think in a roundabout way, it actually would be a good investment to try and bring that up to, instead of double, to triple. So that's my 2 cents on that. Pardon?
I was just making a joke. That's your 17 and a half
That's my
cents.
17
You
and a
want to
half
have
cents,
17 and a half more.
So, Jeff, I want to.
So we're looking at 2A and 2B.
And so you're looking at making it the same as the per diem that's paid for.
What I would receive when I put in a mileage report, the 53, is it 53 or 56? I apologize, it slipped my mind.
Okay.
It's, been a
It
little
looks
while.
like it's gone up to 62.5,
Yeah.
the state,
I'll look up that.
state rate.
And just to give you an idea on how that works too, and I'm sorry, Nat, but like what I'm 229 miles, so it's roughly $100. And I'm looking at anywhere between 60 and 80 in gas right off the top. And that's before the 3-hour drive and then tires and oil and all that stuff. So it's really comparable with what fuel prices are right now.
So I'm going to combine a couple of items here, and Mr. Smith, I may need your help, but Mr. Anderson may be able to answer this as well. The Nevada report card shows per pupil expenditures of $12,134. Approximately how much of that is state funding? So I guess what I'm looking at is if we add one student, how much more money does the district get? Does that make sense?
It does.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I can find it.
I was going to see if Julie had any sort of decent idea of what.
So while you're researching,
It was about 9, I think. Total was 12 last year, and it was 9 and around 2 federal, but I could be.
because what I'm looking at is,
I'm ballparking.
I mean, Jeff's right in that if we go from 19,000 to 57, 60,000, whatever it is, and each student is, for ballpark figures, let's say 10,000. If we convert 6 students from home schooling to the district, have we just paid for what this is? Does that, I mean, that's simplistic thinking, but that's
what I had thought.
General.
And but you'd have to factor, of course, increased cost because 10 more students, but I mean,
right.
yeah,
I'm
it's
pretty sure we're not going to have to hire a new teacher for 10 students.
Right.
Okay. So while we're giving staff an opportunity to review that, I'll move back then to the JGD. Thank you for putting it into policy that the district does not provide compensation for those that are granted zoning variances. So while it was on the form, it was procedure. I appreciate that now it's actually in policy and we can refer back to that. Do we know, are we aware of any students that this is going to immediately impact? I mean, they've all signed the thing, so we shouldn't have any issues with this, correct?
No, I mean, I can't see why anyone who's currently doing a mileage reimbursement contract would have an issue with it. We'd be telling them that the family, the parents would be getting more money out of it.
Right.
I don't suppose we'd lose anybody from doing it. I don't see how that would happen. And you use the word convert. I don't know if we'll convert anyone either, but it certainly is a nice gesture towards people who still choose our schools and want to be here and contribute in positive ways. So yeah, and just to follow up, it is our reimbursement rate at the district, if someone has to use their personal vehicle, is 0.625 per mile. That is the current GSA rate. And there's probably about 4 or 5 other districts in the state that are, the policy just reads that they go with whatever the rate is, and then they don't have to change their policy every time the rate changes. It's just whatever the rate is.
Is it?
In
Is that-
2007, it was 48.5. I'm just trying to compare it to, since the policy is so old.
In 2007, it was 48.5.
That was 15 years ago. It's
This
kinda
policy was
about a
2008.
cent every year. Is that
Correct.
pretty close to that.
So we were about 10 cents off from the state rate.
Then
We weren't exactly at the state rate, but we were a little bit below it. So if we went like 10 cents below state rate, I don't know why they did that.
but previously we were at 17.5. So this would put us at 10 cents below the 15-year-old rate. So we still would
Was
not
going
be
with what
catching up.
Jeff had.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
I also remember paying about $1.20, $1.50 for gas in 2007.
I'm just trying to figure out where that number came from when they first wrote the policy, like, was it related to the state rate? So I was trying to figure out if they went
Tried to
from
figure out
that
a lot
or
of things they were
exactly-
thinking when they write a policy, but things change over
Right.
time, and yeah, not sure.
Well, just throwing out, you come once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This is a student that would be coming to school 5 days that week. So that might be why they might have taken a gross number and divided it or something. Just throwing that out there.
Is that GSA rate change with the price of gas?
It's just something that changes every January 1 most of the time. There's some sort of adjustment to it. Sometimes it goes down. I think it fluctuates based on fuel costs and other
Consumer
economic
price index.
factors.
So say we do this, we go to GSA rate, how do we absorb this? How does the district absorb this? Otherwise, I know it's a great point. I hope we get more students. Is there another way? Let's say we get 0 students that sign back up because we give them this. Is it absorbable? And how many times are we going to ask that and do that? Becomes troublesome.
I mean, we're talking about just quick kind of roundabout math. We're talking about an increase of about $50,000 over the course of a year. I would ask whether, let's just assume it's always good to hope for the best and plan for the worst. So let's say the worst is we don't get any new students. If I would say, this is just some advice, if you feel like that is a cost that is worth treating people the right way, then feel good about your decision. I can't say how we would absorb it, but we certainly would just be absorbing it at this point. And it feels weird talking about $50,000 as if it's nothing, because it's not nothing.
Comparatively speaking.
But it's not like a massive cost that has to be incurred. And yeah, it may be worth it in the end. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here right now because I propose something lower, but I'm also not against something higher. Really just, I would encourage you not to let emotion play a huge part in your decision making. Like, think about what is the most, what makes the most sense, what's the most reasonable, what's fair, and go with it. I guess what I was trying to say, Josh, is I can't tell you which budget we're going to take that from if we have to do it and we don't get new students. Our budgets are so fluid and changes happening all the time, adjustments from the state. It's tough to say that's going to come out of our textbook budget. I don't know that that's the case.
Okay.
So there's also unintended consequences of people who may not be submitting right now because it's 17.5 cents. What's the bother? And
Could
then
be.
we see additional coming in. average teacher salary base is a little bit more than this amount, correct?
Yeah, by the time you throw in benefits and everything, a teacher's about $100,000 is how we speak about it. So we're talking about less than a teacher position.
And if we had the ability to go back in time 3 months, every open position that we needed, or everything that's filled currently with a long-term sub, if all of a sudden, poof, we had all of those teachers show up, would we have the money to pay for them?
We would have to see where it would come from. Yeah.
Okay.
We also don't have anybody that has come to the meeting to argue the rate that maybe gets it or whatever. They haven't said anything opposed or not.
Yep. Matt Ray texted me the number you were looking for. It's $9,267 per pupil.
Jeff was on it.
He's pretty close.
Yep.
Good job, Jeff.
Jeff's pretty close with numbers most of the time.
So that increase then of roughly 50,000.
Yep.
Would mean 5 point some odd students.
5 to 6 students. Yeah.
So 6 students, again, converting. If the only reason they're staying home is because the parents can't afford to bring them, I could see that. Okay.
But we don't know that for sure, right?
No, my last thing I'll say on the subject is I mentioned that part. It's just as a possibly a pleasant side effect to it. But in listening to the presentation a couple meetings ago on the Wine Cup Gumbler Ranch and how we were shifting boundaries and listening to a little bit of how she spoke and what they went through and how little money it ended up being, what was it, $200 or something a month they were getting. It was negligible, and it would, I think if we made that bump, it would make a big difference for those families without much cost to the district's budget. And I say that when I said comparatively earlier, I see a lot of the things that I've argued against or voted against in the past are significantly more money than this. But we still do those things. And I just feel like this one affects people directly. I mean, this is money directly into their pockets that would really help them. So that's why I feel strongly about that raise.
So while I've been on this board, I've had statements that I've made twisted a little bit or misinterpreted. So to be as clear as possible, this is just a question, not an indication of the direction I'm possibly going. However, do we have the ability as the board, CJ, to reduce the reimbursement rate for employees and or board members? Or is that statute?
I don't immediately know the answer to that question. Julie looks like she may.
It's in our travel reimbursement policy that we follow the GSA rate for our employee reimbursements. So that's what we do.
Okay.
I will note that in the employee travel reimbursement, there is a significantly lower rate that goes along with that. There's a qualifier of if district transportation is not available. So in Jeff's case, he pretty much goes everywhere in his car most of the time. But, you know, let's say theoretically we had a car up in West Wendover, the district. Well, it's not theoretical. We do have cars in West Wendover. If Jeff were to take a district vehicle, it's a rate of like 17 cents. It's basically the one we've given to parents because essentially that's so that's how that works. And the same with an employee. If I were to opt out, I have a meeting every month somewhere. I take the vehicle that's been provided to me by the district, and I actually don't even put anything in there about reimbursements. I just take that car and go with it. But people. Yeah, so there's a difference in rate there. It's not every employee does not get 62.5 cents for every mile. It's only when we are unable to provide them that transportation.
Just like we're unable to provide the transportation to these students. So taking emotion out of it, yes, it's a hit of 50,000, but why is a rate that's good enough for the 6 of us that are up here not good enough for our students? So I would suggest that either we bump this up to GSA or we bump us down, but that seems pretty simple to me.
The one other thing I'll put in there, and I'm not saying it's how I feel, but it's my job to inform you, is an argument against that would be you have a choice where you live. And in the case of an employee having to go somewhere, we're telling them they have to go somewhere to a conference. We're making them do something presumably, and not providing them with something. People have choice on where they live, on where they attend school. I'm not saying I want everyone to come here. I'm not saying that to deter anybody, but that's just, if we're throwing out all the factors, then that's one worth considering, I think. And again, I'm happy with whatever rate you guys want us to do.
And I appreciate that. And yeah, you're right. I purposefully choose to live here. And I've given up some pretty lucrative positions because I continue to choose to live here. So I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, for me, I'm not prepared to make a motion at this time, but I certainly think that it's worth considering that, again, if it's good enough for us, at the very least, as board members, then it should be good enough for our families and our students.
There's also a difference between how many teachers and employees there are versus how many students there are. So you would have to put more money in if you were to reimburse the students rather than teachers. And also, I feel like students' education is more important than how much money that you're spending on them to get to school. Like, our education is more important than $50,000, you know? They should be able to have the opportunity to go to school if they don't have a bus.
Absolutely. I like it. Thank you. I was literally just going to ask you what were your thoughts. So read my mind. Appreciate it.
So if that's this would have to be rewritten, just policy, we can't.
Yeah, if there's any, if you want any, even like a little space difference than what is already there, whatever motion you make would just include what change. That way we don't have to bring it back again, unless you want it brought back again. If you would like to make a motion to pass it with X change, then that is acceptable, and we will just make X change, and then we would put the new one in place.
It would be cleaner to tie it to the GSA than
It would be.
there's not a set number that we've got to change every year.
Correct.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm prepared with the motion unless somebody.
I just have a quick question. So is it just historically, or is it required to have something different for paved versus unpaved?
It's not required. A lot of the other districts I looked at, it's 62.5 across the board. And others had differences like we did. The logic there is your gas mileage, your miles per gallon is less efficient on an unpaved road. The wear and tear your tires and your car take is more significant on an unpaved road. So I think that's the mentality of why it was different. But if you just want to say it's the same for everyone, then you can also do that. You have lots of choices.
Sorry, turn on the mic. That was also my question, in that 2A, B, and C would then just basically be combined, because we wouldn't have a separation for those that are transporting disabled students, correct?
Yep. Yes.
How do you want
Anyone
to
else?
proceed?
I'll go ahead, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve policy JGD as written, with the exception of sections 2A, B, and C to be changed to reflect the current GSA rate and to fluctuate with that as posted every January.
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve changes to policy JGD. Any more comment? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The chair votes aye, and the policy passes. Moving on to agenda item 2.02, receipt of quarterly update reports.
All right, so we got a bunch of different people talking here the last meeting of every third month of the school year. We've been doing quarterly updates. We will likely change this so it is a less voluminous item, and maybe do it more intermittent throughout the upcoming meetings. But for today, you're going to get the whole shebang. We have 6 different district leaders who are going to share with you updates on projects they've been working on, and you will probably be familiar with all, or at the very least most of these. And so this is just to keep you aware of how we're doing with those projects. And first up is our construction and facilities manager, Stephen, go
How's it
ahead.
going, everybody? I just wanted to give you guys an update with construction right now. We're still in design with Petty and Associates, the state boiler inspector, on design for the 2 new boilers that we'll be installing at Adobe Middle School. And just to refresh everybody's memory, those boilers that we have in place are beyond their life, and it was recommended on a safety standpoint and also maintenance that we do on these boilers, obsolete parts to replace these. So currently we're still in design, and hopefully that'll finish soon so we can plan to replace the boilers this spring. The next one is something that was on the capital improvement plan, and that was phone and intercom. That's just it's a TCU upgrade. That's what we use to call between rooms, emergency operations plans, emergency call out buttons. Some of the systems that we have in place right now, they're 30 years old and we can't get parts for them anymore. So to circumvent not having that positive communication in the schools, we are going to replace those pieces of equipment with more up-to-date things. Yeah. You guys got any questions on any of that?
How many you got?
I'll let you exhaust.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. So the TCU,
Yes.
right? So we're looking that we've already allocated for this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we already have the funds there. We're just trying to figure out what we need in order to update those.
Yep. And these are just rough numbers on how much it may cost. We allocated $500,000 towards safety this year, and that was part of this. I think that's going to be a way that we implement door locks and electronic keys, and this system handles all of that as well as cameras. So it'll it's one way to galvanize our security plan.
I have a question. We had a little discussion earlier today,
Yeah.
before I was going to rubber stamp this, but what I was wondering was, will you allude the public to how we're currently keeping our sites compliant in regards to this whatever, not program, but I can't think of the word.
How we stay compliant as far
Well, basically,
as.
how do you keep this thing working now? It's 30 years
So
old. We
right
don't have-
now, it's almost like an old DOS file. We have computers that are not supported by the district because it's so old. We go to these systems and they've failed over time, and typically you would want to be able to call into a room and maybe any type of scenario. And we've had to tie all the rooms together because most of those relays have failed and there's no parts available. That's how we stay compliant and keep
So
that
if-
positive communication.
So to understand that, if I'm paging Dr. Byers, Mrs. Neal hears it in her room?
She gets to hear everything.
Great, all right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Never mind.
I will say in Wells, not to call out a school specifically, but to let you know how, I don't know if dire is an exaggeration, but it kind of is. In a real emergency, it would be dire. When we would do our lockdown drills, we would either have an email chain going or a text chain going between adults saying my room is clear or good or whatever the terminology is that a school uses. Like that is how we were made. Like just like educators do in every circumstance, you find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And be as efficient as you can. But in the absence of updated, and you know how technology works, like most of our laptops are obsolete in 5 years. Like I bet 90% of people in this room have upgraded their phone in the last year and a half. Like technology just moves along, and we are way behind on a lot of these systems. And it's one thing to think of it as an intercom system. It's another when you think of this is how we communicate in the event of a serious emergency or an intruder. And it's a huge part. It's one little element of the safety upgrades we're trying to make happen. I think I've mentioned before, but we're in the midst of trying to secure another $500,000 from a government grant for single point entry or reduced entries for film on glass for all sorts of things. So we're in the process of doing other upgrades as well. But this is just one element that a lot of our schools are severely lacking right now.
So was the list of schools that was in the report, the schools you're going to start with? Because
Yeah, and those are
eventually
all
have-
based off of priority.
And is central office part of one of those? I mean, I know they're not a school, but like when you were talking
Central
about,
office is not one of those.
but if you're talking about like the cards to get in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's not even part of it, but that is one thing that's one unique thing about the sole source agreement that we have through Innovative Communications and Rollin is that system can be upgraded to be integrated with the keyless entry. So, but central office is not part of this at all.
Okay.
Only schools.
We would consider the other aspects I talked about, the film on the glass or the keyless entry. That would apply to central office at some point. But this intercom system, not. Yeah.
Just curious.
Just to send a parallel to, so this is essentially like the nervous system of each site that then reports back to the district, and then they can communicate.
They could communicate with local law enforcement. They can communicate with central office. So it's just our central brain for communication. Email chain, text message.
Last question, and then last question. So, and hopefully I don't go too far, but when I asked you, hey, what happens if one of these central relays goes down at one of these schools where we can't communicate with between the intercom in the classrooms? What would essentially be that?
So how we prioritize work orders, and work orders come in. If one of these brains was not working, the school site would contact the maintenance department, and we would essentially go to the school site, determine if the system can be repaired within a timely manner. And if it couldn't, we would probably refer back to that emergency response plan. And the school site is ultimately, the deciding factor on what they want to do with those classrooms that don't have communication, whether we get, two-way radios, make sure cell phones work within the building. Some of the schools, we don't have cell phone service. So
So plan Z then, rather than plan A.
yeah.
Okay.
I would also point out on the equipment list on the very bottom, you'll see two 1500 amp UPSs, which are going to protect against surges and against that, say the power goes out or something like that. The systems, I can't verify, but it looks like to me with that kind of equipment and that capacity, it would continue to operate even with the power
Yeah, and
out.
that's essentially why we haven't had one completely fail on us yet, is we have those protective devices in place.
Yeah, the brain itself would have as much chance going out as the television right here or your phone.
Oh, yeah,
It'd
for
be a
sure.
rare occurrence.
Mine's going to be more financial, and that may need Julie's assistance. So the least expensive school on here is 40 some odd thousand. The most expensive is 85.9, it's almost 86,000. I know we've budgeted it. From a bidding standpoint, other organizations I've been associated with had a threshold at which at some point a bid has to be done. Can you help explain why a bid doesn't need to be done for this?
None of them exceed $100,000.
And so for school districts, it's $100,000 threshold for bidding.
Yes.
Great. Okay. That was all I had. See? Thank you, Dr. Byers, for exhausting your questions. Ms. Sydney?
Thank you for you, Stephen. Thank you.
Oh, maybe then
Okay.
I apologize. Maybe I
No,
did, but it's just
you're good.
not something on the list there. It was something though regarding the meetings last week when we talked about specifically West Wendover High School, and there was some HVAC issues, and I've had some folks ask me about that since then, and I wanted to see if I get something to come back and tell them
So as far as
wise and then prognosis.
No, HVAC, as far as the HVAC goes, currently the maintenance department with budgetary constraints, we've took it upon ourselves to do a job that's typically contracted out. Carlin was first on the list, and what you have in Wendover is essentially a big swamp cooler. It's a cell deck, in technical terms, and a big giant swamp cooler. So one way to cool the school in a, I guess better, is to replace those media pads. They're not as small as the ones that would be in your house. They're, 8 feet tall by 3 feet deep, and there's several of them. The costs on that, if we were to do it in-house, would be $10,000. So as far as mechanical upgrades and design on that school, nobody's looked into putting central air in it. I know that the high school probably feels neglected just because there's AC in the 2 other schools that you have, but right now we monitor the temperatures and we will continue to do maintenance as we can.
But that project is ongoing or in the works to.
Yep, to replace those media pads, flush the lines.
Yeah, and I can tell you the water out there is you get a lot of mineral, a lot of so they can pick up some deposits.
Yeah, and that's probably some of the talk where they say there's no heat in the school. And that is that hard water deposits. The water circulates through a heating coil and it gets plugged up. And we have no heat.
And it acts like insulation almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, well, at least something to report. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll keep
Stephen,
you
actually,
updated
if I
on it.
may, following up on that, Spring Creek High School was modeled after West Wendover High School, correct?
Right.
So is this going to be a similar
No,
problem?
Spring Creek Middle School.
Middle school.
The high
Middle
school
school.
too, it's a hot. It's different classrooms as well, but at the end of the day, in one of my classrooms, it was 85 degrees inside and we had a fan going and the windows open. So, all right, do you have plans for other high schools as well?
So in that instance, the best way to, I guess, drill down on those specific rooms, you had just alluded to the fact some of the rooms are different than the other ones. You can talk to your site administrator or building superintendent, and they would put in a work order.
They
And-
tried to fix it, but they couldn't fix it because something was hooked up wrong.
Okay. Well,
So I didn't know if you had any plans to fix other high schools, priorities.
no,
those, just the middle
there's no
school?
priority right now to do any major mechanical upgrades, but Wendover is one of them that would be on the maintenance list to replace those media pads, flush the lines, things like
I
that.
know at Elko High School, they have the same problem that we have.
Right.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate the report.
That's part of losing the bond issue, and the pay as you go has made it really hard though to address these projects. And that's something we're going to have to, as these types of comments and complaints. I'm getting myself prepared when I go back there with that report, and I'm gonna look at the numbers and how those votes went. And I'm gonna explain to people that, yeah, some of these things are happening, but the voters went out and said, we don't want to have funds to be able to take care of these things. And maybe if we can take these issues, your 85-degree classroom and the one that I had, for the next time when we go forward, and we can all, we have to network, we have to talk to people, and we have to explain why these things are important. I apologize for just jumping in on that, but this is a consequence of losing pay-as-you-go and losing the bond issue. And it's that simple.
Right. And also you had said MGT, and I think that's going to give the public and the school district a compass in which direction we can move forward with, especially losing those funds.
Yes, Sydney, Sydney, sorry. You brought up, prioritizations, and in the end, the whole purpose of this MGT process we're going through is we will get a very kind of clear picture of what the priorities are. And we hear from sites, well, we know what we need, right? Like we hear that from people all the time. We know what we need. We know what the priority is. Well, your priority is different from his priority, is different from her priority, from that community's priority. And so a huge benefit of having a third party company comes in and they can say, from our perspective, we don't live here. We don't have any dog in any race. This seems to be the biggest need. This seems to be the next biggest. And in the end, we will still make those decisions, but they give us a list of things that really do look kind of like a prioritization. So one of the benefits of doing what we're doing there with that.
I think we should have asked her, did they put in a work order into Central though? You said they tried to fix it, but did they go up the
believe so.
chain?
Yes. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Something to follow up on, Stephen.
I will follow up on it.
I just felt like it didn't get settled, so I just wanted.
I think probably the building superintendent and the administrator are probably the only ones that will know whether or not a work order was actually sent in, as they're the only ones that can do that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks.
Mr. Kranka.
Hi, everybody. Just a couple of things that might be new and they might not be new. We will be sending out our first employee engagement survey, which is basically a perception of how we're doing and how the district's doing. If you'll remember a couple meetings ago, you guys approved us working with Qualtrics survey company. That's what this is. I also put down the Workforce Science Associates because Qualtrics is basically the platform that sends this out and helps us out. And then the WSA is part of that organization, so to speak, and that also helps us. So sometimes when you'll see these, and I don't think you guys will get the survey, but when they get the survey, you'll see a WSA. So it's the same thing. What we have done, and I say we, the superintendent and Ray, since he's director of school improvement, we've gone through and uploaded all the entire ECSD staff names and who they are associated with, meaning who their boss is, meaning the direct supervisor, as well as what school and any specific demographics we thought necessary, which we didn't fill in any in this case. Then we will launch that survey, which is about 34 questions. They say approximately because we can still add and it might be different. We can still subtract those questions. And we'll launch that in the next couple of weeks and it'll be sent out to everybody. It'll be open for, I believe, a couple weeks, 2 weeks. And then we'll also send a reminder to those individuals that automatically sends a reminder to those individuals that haven't completed that survey. When we get that information, we'll take a look at it, see what we need to improve on. Most of it, like I said, is directed towards senior leadership, meaning everybody here in this room, the direction of the district, what they know we're doing, how comfortable they are, feel valued, those types of those questions. There are a few specific direct supervisor questions, which will be linked obviously to their direct supervisor at their school, which would be their principal. But for the most part, the questions are directed toward district perceptions. Okay.
I want to throw in too on that note. It was asked to me last night by someone who, like, how anonymous is this survey? I want to point out that I sometimes, like in the case of the 4-day survey, like I'm running that. In the case of this one, we will see results as far as like compiled data. But not even I will get to see who said which response. I'm a person of integrity. It wouldn't matter who said what, but for those who do worry about retaliation or that sort of thing because of past experiences that they've had, I want to assure everyone of our employees that it is a 100% confidential survey, and each link that gets sent to them is unique to that person. That cannot be forwarded to someone else. It cannot be shared, and it cannot be taken twice. It's a unique identifier for every employee, and we're going through all these measures because we want authentic, genuine feedback, and we want to act on that feedback immediately after getting it. And so sometimes you just have to put extra measures in place in order to make sure you're able to do that. So just want everyone to trust this process, and we're doing it. We're doing it because we care about our staff, and we want them to have high satisfaction with their job and what they do because they're amazing. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
And on top of that, one of the reasons I think it's important to use to outsource the survey to a different company is that we can compare our results to other school districts with similar questions, so that if we have perception problems or what we would deem deficiencies, we can see if that's just an Elko County School District problem, or if it's a problem nationwide. We can see if this is specific to us, or if this is something that's also needs to be addressed nationwide on that. Any questions on that one? All right, the Elevate K-12 program, which I'm guessing we'll have a lot more questions, because if you look at your accounts payable, this is also on there as a pretty big ticket item. What Elevate K-12 is to put it simply, it's a teacher that, just like when you guys can't make a meeting, you pop up on the screen. These are teachers. We have 3 schools, as you can see: Elko High School, Owyhee combined, and Spring Creek High School. What these are is when we couldn't find even a long-term sub that was qualified to teach Spanish 3, for instance, or upper level math teacher classes. What we have found is this Elevate K-12 program. They find those teachers. The teacher is live every day, specifically gets to learn the kids just like anybody else, just like when you guys come on these screens and interact with us, they interact with the students. The kids see the teacher on the screen the entire time. Each kid, just like, as you already know, has the one-to-one Chromebook. So anything that the teacher puts on the screen is also on the Chromebook in front of them. Mr. Allen and myself, we went down to Elko High School and checked it out today. It was a pretty large class. The kids were interacting. The teacher, it was a Spanish class. She was back and forth calling kids by name. The kids were responding by name, or they could type things in and she could keep track of that. Each of these classes also has a long-term sub in the room so obviously the kids are monitored. That's who the disciplinarian is. That's has the access to Infinite Campus. We're not outsourcing that to someone else. And they're the ones that enter the grades and so to speak, and keep track of classroom management and go that route. Like I said, it's also on Owyhee for their middle school science, some of their math classes. I know that the question will be, how much does this cost? It's about $8,200 a class period. The other option would be, why don't we just send this to Edgenuity, which would be about, I believe, $530. So if you look at Edgenuity versus, which is quick maths from around just under $16,000 for a class of 30. So if we didn't do this for that, we'd be looking at about $15,900 or so for that class. And we'd still have to have that long-term sub in there. This way, it was my opinion that by having an actual teacher that can answer immediate questions, not an email that might get answered later, that can answer those questions, can give immediate feedback, can recognize, can just be like as close to a normal and regular classroom setting as we can when we don't have that option. Matt, you had a question about it?
I just wanted to clarify, was that $80 to $100?
$8,200.
$8,200
per class, yeah.
Okay.
And so what you've seen is, because this is new to us, I know Nye is doing it, and I believe Humboldt is as well, but I've only been talking tonight, and I know they're doing it for the same reasons. It's tough not only to find teachers, but it's tough to find a sub that is qualified to teach those upper level classes. So we're working out some kinks. We had a little late start, in my opinion, but that's because we continued the process of finding someone qualified in the area and someone that could come into that classroom. But once it wasn't capable, we went with this option. We can change this at semester. We're not bound for the entire school year. So as we go through, it's a learning process. When I talked to the long-term sub at Elko High School, he says it takes a while, just like any situation, for kids to warm up to someone on a screen. It takes a while for someone to warm up to someone in the classroom. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to trust it, which is why they have that option to type in their answers on their computer, on their Chromebook. So there'll be a few kinks. The company itself, they send a camera so that you can see the classroom. They send the speakers so they can hear quite well. It wasn't like the kids were talking into a microphone like I'm doing right now. So I think it's a good option for what we have. I don't think, and I know there's going to be people who are like, oh, we're going to outsource teachers. No, I don't. It's not what I want to do. Like I've said, this is what we had to do right at the very end to make sure that we're giving what the kids deserve when it comes to these specific classes, rather than cut them or just put them by themselves looking at a Chromebook.
Can I just ask what they do in math if you're having problems? Is there a way to show your work to the teacher, like your screen can?
Yes, she can see all the screens. She can see all the screens. And another good thing about the screen is when we were doing Google Classroom, which is not the platform I believe they use, then the kids could see all the other kids, and that was a distraction. Now all they can see when they look at their screen is what is being presented, just like when you're in a meeting and you share the screen, how you can always pay and you're like, oh, that guy's paying attention, that kind of thing. No, it's just the classroom, just like when your kids are sitting in the classroom and they're looking at the smart boards. Sid, are you in the Spanish class out there? No. Have you heard anything about it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I haven't been able to go out to Spring Creek. I know that the people being Elevate K-12 are sending their overhead to our area and to 9 next week. And then we'll be visiting one of the schools based on their time frame. And they're going to take a look and make sure it's going the way it should be.
Does the teacher have to be certified in the
They
state
are
of
licensed.
Nevada?
Yep, they are licensed. And as it says, they're aligned with our curriculum and our standards. We go that route.
I think you made the most of a situation that's tough.
Hope so. We'll see how it works this semester. And we probably will. I know that I've talked to one principal, and we'll still open those positions just in case we can catch those college kids that happen to graduate in December. And then maybe we can get them a job, and then we can terminate that contract for those specifics. But we'll see how this goes. It is an option for elementary schools, but like I said, I didn't think that was necessary. This is, in my opinion, best for those situations where we can't find someone that can specifically teach those classes. Okay.
Cody, the 3 schools have 3 classes: Spanish, math, middle school science. So how many total classes are we looking at?
Probably about 19 class periods.
Okay.
Because there's 6, and I think there's 7 in Hawaii, 7 or 8 in Hawaii. So it's probably, if you look at accounts payable, it's probably around 150,000.
Yep. Okay. 152. Well, 151,700.
Somewhere around there. Should be about right.
Okay. And is that accounts payable a semi-weekly, a monthly, quarterly?
We've paid for this semester on that one, and we've account for if that's what you're asking.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, we've paid for the semester, and we've allocated in the ESSER funds, because this is grant funded. We've allocated for next semester as well. But like I said, we have that option to change that if we find better resources in our community, or we feel this isn't meeting the needs of our students.
Grant funded for next semester too, or just this?
No, yeah, next semester too, and the ESSER 3.
So had you not found this solution, what was the alternative for this?
The alternative was to reduce class options, but Edgenuity was probably what was going to end up in some situations. And one situation we did choose Edgenuity because the class wasn't, for two reasons. It was a math class that wasn't offered and there were only 3 students in that class. So it wouldn't, I mean, 530 times 3 compared to 8,200. It's not fair to the district or the taxpayer on that. And so we'll figure something, or we have figured something out that, but some principals were just going to reduce class size because they had not class size, class offerings, because they had another Spanish teacher, and the other one maybe was contemplating perhaps just going Edgenuity, which would be very difficult for a foreign language class, and then the same with math classes.
Thank you. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. 19 class periods, 151,000, roughly. I'm not trying to take away from the educators, but I would figure 19 classes is roughly 3 teachers. So works out to be about $50,500 for the semester. So 2 semesters a year would be about 100,000, which would be about what we're doing for a teacher anyways. So
about 300,000. Yeah. The only thing that we're missing in that math will be the price of the long-term sub.
Right. Yep. Good point. Okay. But overall,
it's fairly equitable, especially when you consider benefits and perks.
Right. So well done. Thank you.
I hope so.
For
We'll see.
being
We still got a
ingenious
year.
on, and at least creative and trying
Not
to
taking
find.
any credit yet, huh?
No, I don't want. Yeah, if it goes bad, we're going to blame Paul. Sorry, Paul. It was asked once, why is this an HR thing and not a curriculum thing? Hopefully moving forward, this will be a curriculum thing, but obviously this was a necessity for a human resource. We'll see if it becomes that, but for the most part, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on this one. Okay. Speaking of reaching out, virtual employment fairs are coming up. There are so many virtual employment fairs platforms. The 2 I've listed are the 2 that I think will probably be the best option. I've gone through, asked other people, gone through, of course, all the ratings and what they have to offer, and price. Of course, the price, relatively speaking, isn't anywhere. I mean, it's like between $500 to $1,500, depending on what we want as a district. The Education Weeks does seem to be the one that I'm looking for the most. The Glassdoor one seems to be recruiting overseas, which might have to look into that more often to help with teacher shortages. But these are all open door ideas. That if you guys have any ideas, this is just me thinking out loud, which is always dangerous. But the Education Week, I like that one the best because I believe that can provide links to our website so that people can come to us and see us and what we have. And then we'll have the virtual employment fairs because they're more domestic. They don't deal with as much the J1 visas as Glassdoor does. So one of these days on accounts payable, you might see like a $500 or $1,500 towards that expense. And that's why. Any other questions, concerns?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Cody.
All right.
Thanks. Dr. Higbee.
Yes, sir. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Just want to kind of review what we've done so far. August 25th, we held our first all case managers meeting in Elko. We brought all of our case managers from district-wide and had our school psychologists roll out our new handbook for our case managers. They did an amazing job. Lots of great feedback from our case managers on that. That was a half-day event for us. Lots of excitement about getting back to face-to-face professional development, and it was a good day. We also had our speech language pathologist training that afternoon on the 25th. we had our SLPs present something that they use to share to the rest of the group. And what an amazing thing to watch our talented SLP people present to one another. Our new SL people, they were furiously writing. It was fun to watch them do that. This last week, we had SPEDCO come in. SPEDCO is a consulting agency that provides professional development, and they met with Jackpot and West Wendover in Wells and presented there. They came across. We did elementary and at the Spring Creek and Elko, and then high school in Spring Creek and Elko in different sessions, and then finished the week in Hawaii. And very helpful techniques. We have them coming in for 2 more live training sessions, and they will also do 2 virtual sessions as well for us. That are the rest of the trainings will be based on individual school needs and not on the whole part of SPED. Last week, I took a team to Yakima, Washington, to the Pacific Northwest Institute of Special Ed and Law conference, and it was a phenomenal conference. Scary, to be honest with you. If we've had people that have gone, and it's a lot. The one thing we did find out is the Ninth Circuit is deciding cases more and more in favor of schools. And the reason is because schools are doing a better job documenting everything that they have going on in their schools. Now, getting to and from the conference was kind of ugly. If you've flown lately, it's not good. On the way there, all of Alaska Airlines computers went down. So we were stuck in the airport. Coming back, we got out on the runway, and captain said, "Energize," and engine number 2 failed. So they towed us back. We changed planes. It didn't work. And so at 10 o'clock that night, we finally got out of Seattle. So we were about to go planes, trains, and automobiles on that trip. But it was a great training, and our team will share with our school psychs and everyone else who and our case managers as well. This year we've instituted what we call Live Doc, and Live Doc is a Google sheet that all of our case managers have at the local level, and on that doc they have their entire caseload there with the annual IEP and the 3-year IEP. And that is shared with admin, school psychs, SPED coordinator, central assistant administrator, or assistant administrator, and myself. And what that's used for is to track where we're at so that we're in compliance. I'm going to be doing my 2nd round of visits in October. And when I walk in, I'll have that Live Doc, and I can visit with every one of the case managers and say that, you're here, what help do you need? Because the big thing is our caseloads are so high right now. We're short-staffed, our caseloads are high, and our people need help. They need help out there. And so for our administrators to help, for me to walk in and say, something, I see you've got 2 IEPs that are pressing. What can we do to help you? And so we're finding out more and more good things about that as we progress. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that works this year. I've been out to every school with the exception of Carlin, and I've got to say, we have an amazing bunch of educators out there doing incredible jobs in their schools. The administrators are getting it done. Our teachers are getting it done. It was so fun to watch them in their professional environment doing the things that they're really good at. Again, our caseloads are high, but our people are professionals and they're not out there whining. They're just digging in and getting it done. An issue that I see upcoming for us as a school district, talking about school psychs and hiring more of them. Right now, the average for hiring a school psych is to start is about 78,000, and they're topping out at about 120. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. And so we lost an OT. We've got a person from Reno that's going to come over and provide some relief. But it's going to be our job to go out and find people. And this is the best school district anywhere. We got to sell that because we have so much to offer. And the stability that you all have provided this school district. And I got to same with our new superintendent. It really will make it possible to go out and get good people to come here because they know that we have the best education anywhere. So with that being said, any questions?
Glad you made it back safe without
Holy smokes.
any highway incidents.
None
Going
there.
the wrong way.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say,
oh,
yeah, go ahead, Josh.
You have one? Sorry, they jumped the gun on me. So when you say high caseloads, can you give me like an average-ish of how many of that?
Well, our school psychs are about a third over their caseload,
Okay.
which NRS. Our case managers are probably a quarter over, and our OT is, we don't even want to talk about it. She's got basically everyone in the district. Our speech people, I'm waiting on a license to come through, and that'll provide some relief. Aluma, our online speech company that we use, their person didn't want to get a Nevada license, and so we've got to compensate once we get somebody on to the services that we lost there. But like I said, and what I found at the conference was there's no excuse. The courts, there's no excuse if you say we don't have people.
Yeah.
You better find them. You better get it done.
Yeah. No, I just want to put it out there. I mean, I know many folks within your program. I get to talk to them face to face. I get to see their eyes, how, I don't want to say overwhelm's the wrong word, but they are at their top. When you try and talk to them about work, it's just something in passing with my patients. Hey, how's things? It's for them, it's very, yeah, you can see it. You can read it across their face. So anyways, I just want to try and put numbers out for folks so they can kind of tell, listen, they're good people doing good things, but we're on those higher levels. So I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
You betcha. And they are digging in. I'll tell you, like I said, it's fun to watch them getting it done.
I just wanted to say thank you for asking them if they need help, because sometimes that's all it takes is just someone to say, what can I help you with? Because you feel like I should be doing this all myself. So appreciate you just asking if they need some help. Simple question, but it's easy to take care of. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks, Dr. Higbee. Mr. Smith again.
All right, so just a couple quick things on the school improvement front to update you on. First one, we kind of alluded to it a little bit, already mentioned it, school performance plans and the overall continuous improvement process that school performance plans are a part of. Our schools are hard at work, digging into that process, completing some of the initial events that go along with that, digging into that data that I shared with you. Among other things, they have lots of other data sources that they use as well, site-specific things. So they're in the process of doing that, really digging down into root causes, what might be getting in the way of where they want to be and where they want their students to be. coming up with strategies to put into place that are going to make improvements in that area, and then putting that all together into a plan that we call the school performance plan. By statute, those are due to the State Department by November 30th. So we have a timeline that kind of steps them through each of those of the events, the processes that go there, so that they have those completed. And we have a chance to review them. We'll be getting together principals from different schools to come together to review plans probably mid-November-ish. Once those dates are set, there will be invites to the board members. You're welcome to attend those, be a part of that process, see what's going on into those plans. And then, of course, they'll be posted on school websites by November 30th for everybody to review. As the school year goes on, there's status checks where they take a look and see if they're making the progress that they anticipated, if they need to make changes. Those status checks and the results of those are also posted on the websites too. So look for that as we're moving forward. But just wanted to make sure everybody was aware those schools, or all of our schools are deep into that process. And then the second thing to update everyone on, probably 2 or 3 meetings ago, we had an item where you selected a member to be on our strategic planning team, and that was Susan Neal. And so we've started moving forward with that process. We had our first of 4 on-site meetings with K-12 Leadership Matters, who are helping us facilitate that process of developing a district-wide strategic plan that will provide us with some guiding principles and some priority goals moving forward. I think the intention is hopefully that'll be a 3 to 5 year plan to give us some guidance there. Our first meeting was last week. It was that team consists of district office representation. Susan is the board member representative, and we have ECTA representative, EXO. Sarah Negrete, who is here today from PDP, is a big part of that team. And so our first meeting, I think, went really well. We did some preliminary stuff, setting the stage, getting some ideas of what information we want to gather. And then we'll be meeting again every month for the next 3 to 4 months, depending on how December goes. Might move into January a little bit for that final meeting, just because that time of year gets pretty tight with timing. But good first meeting, like I think I've said 3 times now, and we're moving forward with that process and looking forward to what we get and create at the end of it for the betterment of the district. So those are the 2 things on my list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2 questions.
Okay.
So first meeting went pretty good.
Yes, it did. It did. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
What was this? Yeah. Sorry. Second, man, beard is coming in good. What have you been doing with that sucker?
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll have to talk about it later.
Okay.
It's kind of a sore subject.
Oh,
okay.
I was thinking, how did we get so far ahead already?
All right.
Sorry.
That was it? Okay, perfect. Thanks. Thank you.
We got to have some fun in here too. Can't all be crazy seriousness.
I don't believe in fun. Candace and Paul, you're up.
Good evening. We've had a busy first 5 weeks of school so far this year, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of the projects I've been working on. RISE, Read by Grade 3, district counselor meetings, and paper. RISE, Sarah and Annie talked to you about it earlier tonight. It's our induction program for new employees that lasts all year long. It's 1 week of intense instruction and support at the very beginning, and then monthly mentor meetings. And this year we had 76 candidates go through that program at the beginning. And we'd just like to tell Sarah and Trina and Natalie and Jennifer and all the ladies at NNRPDP, thank you, because they are the driving force behind that, and they make it the success that it is. Next, Read by Grade 3. All 12 of our elementary campuses have designated literacy specialist, a dyslexia strategist, and at least 2 reading interventionists who are scheduled to start on Monday, October 3rd at the campuses. And if you remember last year, we were way into January and we were still looking for reading interventionists for Carlin. So we're 3 months ahead of the ball game. So I feel pretty good about that. This Thursday, we are having a dyslexia strategist training. on the KTA, Form B, and Q Global. And we are going to start conversations on how we can support and grow our district's dyslexia program. District counselors. I've been working with a counselor at Spring Creek High School. Her name is Sarah Sanders. And we are starting to develop and schedule bi-monthly district meetings for our counselors to get together and to meet and network while learning. Last month's meeting, the counselors completed a McKinney-Vento training, and we listened to different local support presentations and brainstormed topics for future meetings. And I just wanted to give you a quick paper update. Last school board meeting in Jackpot, we were at 1,220 tutoring sessions. Today, we are at 2,935 tutoring sessions, which is an increase of 1,715. These next 9 weeks, I'll continue to work with the counselors, and I'll finish organizing the substitute teacher support classes that we want to put in place. And I'll also be putting the finishing touches on the district literacy plan and coordinate and organize the math textbook adoption process. Yeah, I'm like, what did I write there? It was a very important word, I'm sure. All right, and that's the elementary report so far. Paul?
Yep.
Candace, before you leave, do you happen to know, and maybe you don't, and that's fine, off the paper, is there like a school that's using it more than another? It's kind of
You can dig into the data like that. I haven't looked at it school specifically, but I have looked at the types of questions the kids are asking, and it's basic algebra questions. And 5th grade seems to ask the most.
I just thought that'd be interesting. And then can you just repeat for me the read by grade 3? Each school has a strategist, and what was the other one?
They might have multiple strategists.
Okay.
And they have multiple, literacy specialist, a designated dyslexia strategist, and at least 2 reading interventionists.
Oh, that's great. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? I always forget to ask if there's questions.
Sydney, have you had an opportunity to use paper? Use paper? Are you aware of paper?
Yeah.
Okay, great, good. That's good. Have you been able to
Good job, Spring Creek
utilize?
High School.
Right. Have you been able to utilize the program at all? Or had it found a need to?
I haven't found a need to.
Okay, great. Thank you. For the record, my son hasn't either, but
I
that's,
don't really know how to use it. I know it's on my Chromebook, but I don't know how it works.
It's pretty easy. Just sign in and ask a
Have to look.
question. Yeah.
with a 3.987 GPA, you may not need it very much, but all right. No, cool. Thank you.
We
Didn't mean
may
put
want to
on the
hire you
size.
for a tutor.
One thing, just to follow up on paper, we did have requests from our adult school to see if they could get access because they're preparing to take the high set test, which is the GED as we all knew it. They can use that, and there's a big section on that test that is writing. So that's going to be a huge tool to get those kids through and get their high school diploma. So that was good news. First off, I want to say, way to go, Sydney. I was at Spring Creek for 20 years. I've known parents for a long time, and Miss Udi showed up. You can tell you've been in Miss Udi's class before because you have good questions and things to ask.
This is the first year I've had
Well,
Miss
this
Udi.
year, yep.
Okay.
And so way to go. You had some good comments. Good to see Spartans out there doing good things.
Thank you.
I have two things. I have a third, but I'm going to let somebody come and speak to you guys next time about that because he knows a little bit more. It's our collaboration with the Great Basin and UNR and the new School of Mine or the new Mining Center of Excellence. They're setting up. Dr. Spearing agreed today. I reached out to him and he's going to come in and talk to you. Incredibly interesting guy, very knowledgeable. And I think this is going to be a really great opportunity for our kids. So something to look forward to for next meeting. First thing I want to talk a little bit about is SFE, our food contract. Things are going pretty well. Kids are getting fed. The first week of school, my son came home and said, "Dad, did you have anything to do with school lunch this year?" Oh, God. I said, why? And he said, well, we had a chicken burrito the other day and it was awesome. So I said, I had everything to do with school. We've ran into a few minor blips as you do in any new relationship, but things are going smoothly. George is here tonight. We meet with him every couple of weeks just to run through things. So I think everything's going in a good direction. My second topic was our textbook adoption. We're adopting math textbooks K-12 this year. There's a timeline that's in the board docs for you to take a look at. We've kind of set up what our goals are going to be. Today, we reached out to a couple of different companies to set up meetings with them so we can look at the different books that we're going to choose from. One of them already got back. I have a meeting either tomorrow or Thursday with them to talk about the high school end of things. We're going to have new math books in place for the start of next school year. I reached out to a couple of, when you've been in this business as long as I do, you have contacts. So I reached out to another couple of districts who've been through the process just to get some insights into how things go. It should go smoothly, and we'll have new math books for the first time in a long, long time.
I'm going to play the role of Dr. Byers for just a moment. Just to confirm, the textbooks that you're reviewing are from a list that the state is providing.
Correct. The state has a list of approved textbooks. There's a process you can go through to choose a book that's not on that list. There were plenty on the list for us to choose from, so we're just going to go from the state approved textbook list.
Great. In your years of teaching, the contacts that you've made and then reached out to specific to this item, were they in Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, DC?
Just a short ways down I-80 towards Reno.
Oh, so Nevadans that understand Nevada and rural issues?
Yep, a couple of one former principal and another principal who's been in this business for a long time.
Things that we would expect a qualified person to do when they're doing the research?
Correct.
Great. All right. Thank you. Just confirming. Dr. Byers, I yield to you now.
I'm good. Storm with thunder. Thanks.
I'm a little offended that I don't get a beard comment, Dr. Byers.
I was going to add,
I'm catching up. I trim it down for the summer, and then wintertime, I want to be Santa Claus. So. And I just wanted to add, I am more than happy to take the blame for Cody's failings, and he's going to find his coffee cup on the top shelf in his office.
I just have one question. First, I'm glad you haven't mentioned a beard for me, so that's good. With the textbook adoption, is it likely that the math, like it'll be the same K-12, same book, or is it
We're not
likely
sure.
it's-
We talked a little bit about that. Ideally, I think that would be best because then the kids are familiar with it, but it just depends on what the staffs at the different levels choose. It's either going to be the same K through 6 or K through 8. And then the flip side of that would be 7 through 12 or 9 through 12.
Okay. I was just curious because I know sometimes it's not always the same, but.
Yep.
Going back to a comment that Dr. Byers made, I think at the last meeting in regards to the weight of backpacks. Are you seeing these textbooks? How many of them are electronic versus you're still holding, carrying around a 2-inch thick?
Most of the, we buy the paper book, and then along with that comes an electronic copy for most of them. I don't know why kids have decided they don't use their lockers anymore. That's been something that's happened over the last 10 years and packed this 700-pound backpacks. But yeah, they're going to have a big math book in that backpack probably.
Okay. But there are still lockers in schools too?
Yep. Just nobody uses them.
Okay.
The reason we don't use our lockers is because there's not really enough time to go between classes to get things out of our lockers. There's only 5 minutes, and I usually have to walk across campus to get to my next classes. So I just carry everything in my backpack. I also don't know where my locker is at. It's somewhere probably. I'm have one, but
hopefully at Spring Creek High School.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Potentially.
We can find out where it is for you if you want us to.
Okay.
Oh, I lost my train.
It's a good point, though, that there's not time.
Every second of this.
Looks like we're good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Last but not least, Mac.
Okay, I have a
list of projects I want to update you on. Before I start, I want to just remind everybody the difference between an E-rate category 1 project and an E-rate category 2 project. The category 1 projects are connectivity to the school. Category 2 projects are connectivity inside the school, right? So that being said, we did get approved for the Wells, Flagview, and Windover fiber projects. I have started communicating with those companies, and progress is being made on them. For our Wi-Fi project in the schools for category 2, the PO has been sent into CDW. We're waiting for Aruba to get the access points to us so we can start replacing them. Timeline on that should be around February. And I ordered them in August, so it's taking a little bit longer than we'd like. Upcoming E-rate projects, things that we're looking at doing, things that we're putting in a 470 for, not going out to bid, but putting in a 470 so we can get costs and things for it. Oahe is on the list, as always. Hopefully we can get them taken care of. The state is actually in with this round this time. So hopefully that means we're going to get more companies involved and maybe get more bids and stuff in on these projects. So it was suggested that we put Ruby Valley, Mountain Valley, and Montello in there. I threw them in there. We'll see what happens. Right now, Mountain Valley and Montello, or no, Ruby Valley and Montello are on HughesNet. So that's not a great connection, but it's getting through. The category 2 projects I mentioned here, I just kind of wanted to let you guys know what I'm thinking about doing, what the goal would be, because we have about $892,000 in E-rate 2 category 2 money that we can utilize. For every project I have to pay 30% of it, but that money's out there, so I want to use it if we can. What I'm looking at doing is some of these schools have switches that we put in when I started 15 years ago that need to be replaced. They have multi-mode fiber that has been in for even longer than that needs to be updated to single mode, and so we can get some of those 10 gig backbones and stuff between the switches going. What that's going to look like, it's going to be like a take place over 3 years. So we're not going to just pay for it all in one chunk. We'll kind of spread it out and then do as many schools as we can get through with the money that's in that category 2. Then we've been busy since school started. We've completed 9 software integrations just since school started. It's been keeping our STARS recipient pretty busy. I've listed on that document the integrations that we've done. I don't feel the need to go through them all individually, but if you guys have any questions, I'll answer them.
I got 2.
Yes.
But you want to go? I got 2. You want to go?
I jumped in front of you last time. You go.
Sure.
Get your 2.
Okay. Aruba, just so people know, what is Aruba? You said you ordered Aruba. You're waiting for Aruba.
So Aruba wireless access points. It provides a wireless signal out to the school, and we put one in each classroom just to make sure coverage and not only that the building's covered, but that there's enough density for the wireless to work with 30 Chromebooks in a classroom.
Perfect. So, and then when you say integration, a lot of folks don't know what that means. What do you mean by you integrated them? Like, what did you do with them? Like, you told me you put them on the Chrome, right? You just put them in the Chromebook so they could get to it.
For
the software integration. A lot of people don't know what you mean. You said I integrated the software and they have no idea what you mean.
What that means is it can be a number of things. Like Google Classroom, we made it to where the schedules come in from Infinite Campus and it syncs, and the teachers don't have to create their own classes in there. It's automatically done for them. This is technically we did it the second semester last year, but this is the full year that we've done it all the way through. And it makes it so that the other integration types could be like for single sign-on, so that the student doesn't have to have yet another username and a password to sign into services like Lexia or Google Classroom or Adobe Creative Suite, those kind of things.
Thank you. I just wanted, because that's super important, because that's a huge frustration in my clinic is I can't even count, probably more than 9 that I have to go and I have all these passwords for it and everything's got to be 13 characters with all blah, 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 you know what I mean? So just want to make sure that people understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to make learning easier with the programs that we have, and I appreciate that.
Yep.
It's very technical, your passwords. That's
Bloopity blah,
Bloopity blah.
bloopity bloopity blah, blah.
Is that a special character I haven't seen?
Spell it out. Just spell it out.
Mac, your Cat 2, is there any way to fold in Stephen's TCU into that?
No, it's network hardware only, pretty much.
Okay.
They're very limited on what they let us do.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Again, I'm sure you probably already discussed that, but just putting it out there.
Yep.
Thank you.
anything else?
I was gonna ask the same thing, so.
Oh,
I should
and-
let you go first. No, you're fine.
And no beard. Sorry, I've tried for months before and it doesn't work.
There's always November.
I know a guy.
Oh,
We good?
thanks.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Matt.
All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think that concludes our quarterly update. So,
Good.
That moving forward will be shorter because we'll have them more regularly.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thank
no
you.
more 6 at a time.
I think our student representatives and their parents would probably also appreciate that.
I'm doing great. It's fine.
Awesome.
Okay. Item 3.01, the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any comments?
Before we go too much further, so Sydney, are you familiar with the consent agenda or the concept of it?
No.
So the consent agenda in essence has a whole bunch of stuff put together, such as board minutes. There are religious exemptions for immunizations, there are high set exams, there are things that the public can't see that only the board members can see. But otherwise, it basically lumps everything together because it should be non-confrontational, just housekeeping generally. No offense to anybody that this is falling under when I say housekeeping, but just simple things so that we don't have to waste additional minutes of your time or the rest of the populations.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item 4.01 is a report from the NASB director.
Shortest item of the night. I have nothing to add since the last meeting.
Thank you.
Hey, Josh, got with the drop.
Okay. Item 4.02, items from board members.
I'll go if no one else will. I'll start. Went to Southside PTA and Liberty Peak PTA meetings. I've gone to a couple other ones that Matt has been at. It's interesting to hear what different schools do with their PTA, like their fundraising and everything. So those have been great fun actually to go to. The MGT facility assessment meeting that was held at Elko at the Performing Arts building was a little disappointing in how many people attended, but we were told that it's not unusual and that more will participate maybe in the survey that will be sent out. The strategic planning team meeting that Ray was talking about, that was great. Beyond great, it was exciting for me. I just was very energized by it, and I think good things are coming with it. So I'm really excited for what's going to be happening. And then thank you, Sydney, for coming. It's nice to have you up here and that you're voicing your opinion. Appreciate it. And one last thing with the Nevada report card. I know in Jackpot, there was a comment made dealing with when we were talking about a policy and about how the public doesn't know that we have a award-winning track team or something like that. And I mean, I've looked at Nevada report card at data as far as that goes, but not really for other things. So if you click on the accountability report card, like Ray was showing us, and then on parents, there's ways we communicate there. And then there's also in the profile, it gives highlights at each school. So it mentioned FFA, mentioned boys basketball. So there's all kinds of things in there. So when we were talking about, you know, how will people know? It's still all right there on that site. So I just thought I'd share that because I didn't realize that was there myself. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sydney. Appreciate your input. Thank you for being here. And we've got you for one more meeting.
Not consecutively. No, the Elko and Spring Creek schools are playing nice with each other and worked out a schedule as to who will be where when. So I had envisioned having Sydney or whoever would be here today come for 2 consecutive meetings, but they've opted to do it in a different format, probably to accommodate schedules and things like that. So that's great. So we will not see Sydney in 2 weeks, but somewhere down the line, and she probably knows what the next date is, but she doesn't. Okay. I have it on a schedule somewhere. It's not in 2 weeks though. That much I know.
Great. Well, thank you again for being here nonetheless. Susan, thank you for the comment in regards to the superintendent highlights. That was part of that policy that we eliminated. When I downloaded this evening, no offense, Ray, while you were talking, I downloaded the report card, 27 pages. Pages 1 and 2 are the superintendent highlights. And like you said, it has that in there. So I appreciate you bringing that up because I had planned on that as well. And then let me go back to the rest of my notes. The PTA meetings, yes, I've only been able to get to a couple of them so far. For those that I haven't been able to get to yet, with 20-ish schools that have PTAs, I can't make every one of them every month. And some of them, of course, fall on board meetings. So I've got a higher obligation there. Not that you're not important, just can't make it for that one. I have never been served a FOIA request, Mr. Superintendent, but once a FOIA request has been satisfied, that information can be made public, correct? Or is there a no disclosure clause?
No, that's fine. In fact, we've been talking about a way to integrate that into our website to just as an added transparency measure, instead of like having someone do a FOIA request and fulfilling it and letting them do what they will with it. Very soon, I anticipate we're going to just start posting that on our website, like a platform that you can interact with that says, here's the date that it was requested, here's what the topic was, here's the person who requested it, here are the documents that came as a result of that, and just putting it out there. Again, nothing to hide. We will absolutely, it just hasn't been past practice, but from my meetings with the national superintendents and publications that we've seen recently, and with times when we do get bombarded with those things, whether it's during hot button issues in the public or whether it's during an election season or whatever, there are times when we are prone to receive more of those. We're just to help people know what they're requesting, to avoid duplicate requests, things like that. We're going to start doing that. It will take some time to get that type of thing integrated into our website, but that's probably a direction we're going to go soon. But yeah, I mean, if it was public for one person to get, it's public for everybody. So,
if someone requested a FOIA from the Attorney General regarding a certain someone in the room that did a certain something, they could release that if they had that to release.
Sure. Yeah,
great.
Absolutely, they could.
Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean that each of us have to go back to the Attorney General and try to find this out and kind of keep it in the background. We can just ask the person that is making the claim to.
By nature of being a public record, there's nothing secretive about it. So
just wanted to double check I understood that
treated secretly. Yeah.
I figured in 20 years of government affairs, I kind of understood that a little bit, but just wanted it public. So I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. And so then along those lines, if someone has done something illegal, unethical, untoward, as a community, don't we have an obligation to protect our students and our neighbors? So rather than making a claim of somebody in this room did something, please say Matt McCarty ran a stoplight last week. I mean, tell me. I think you have an obligation to let the community know if there's something going on. Please don't make hidden claims. It's a public meeting. You're welcome to say that. So that's just all I have. Because I would certainly hope that if I've done something, somebody's going to call me out on it. Because I guarantee you, my father will. And
Lee Hoffman will too.
Yes. Yep. Where's Miss Lynn? Well, Miss Linwood. I know
Miss Linwood too.
she
Yes.
would call me right then.
Meeting still.
Oh, dear.
I'm sorry we could not make a date night for you guys. But no, nonetheless, I tell people that the reason I was straight and narrow in high school was because my father knew I was in trouble before I was. I moved to Reno my sophomore year. My senior year, I got pulled over in Reno and I had to walk the line on 395. My father called me before I got home, and he was in Elko, and he knew what was going on. So if we've done something wrong, if somebody in here has done something wrong, please be respectful to your neighbors, be respectful, most importantly, to our students. Let us know so that we can take action. Thank you. I'll get off my high horse for a minute. Actually, I won't. I lied. Sorry. Rubber stamping. So tonight we reviewed a policy. Within the policy, it referenced NRS, and NRS specifically states a school board shall require, what was that term? Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Sure, that one. So when the Nevada revised statute states that a school district shall, that's because it was legally passed through the legislature, signed by the governor, two branches of our government, and has not yet been rejected by our Supreme Court. There are many things where, yes, it doesn't require NRS. But so far, most of the things that I have personally been adverse to passing says right in here, a school district shall. So that's pretty much why we go from there. But again, if you think I'm rubber stamping something, give me specifics, because I don't retain a lot of stuff, and I write things down for a reason. Ask my wife. I get in trouble all the time for not retaining stuff, but tell me if you think I'm rubber stamping something, I'm happy to explain why I made that decision. Thank you. I'm done now. I promise. Very quick. Get it.
You didn't mention your beard.
Go ahead. I didn't.
That's so many things written down. That's crazy. So, but it's 8:08. Ridiculous as was said. Let's just go this way. So, let's talk about lockers, because that matters. Okay. So, I personally talked to Mr. Wickersham over at EHS. He told me that I could get on this mic and say, hey, if you need a locker, just go ask him. He will get you one. And not an assigned locker, but whatever locker you pick out is yours as long as someone else hasn't picked it out already. So to all of the students out there, I'm assuming that other sites might do something like that. Maybe ask. And I asked him, well, how many students have asked for a locker? And he said exactly 0.
Our locker assignments are on Infinite Campus as well.
So then Spring Creek's probably doing a little different. However, I'm sure that they might accommodate if some are not being used, which is how it was when I was at EHS. It was like, hey, this isn't being used. Can you? Yep, great. Sign for it. Great. Awesome. Done. So anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out, lockers. I was already looking to say something about. So that's EHS, but definitely talk to the admin there too as well. So see if you need one. It sounds like you don't though.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. All right.
It's convenient to carry my backpack around.
That's what my daughter says. It's weird. Okay. All right. Matt kind of like hit on everything else I had added to this. It's like the ridiculousness of this is that whatever happened and whatever was said and whatever was done, I don't really care anymore. I just don't. And this district doesn't care because we're moving forward. We already have people there. We're doing things online and finding solutions to whatever. The stuff that happened here a year ago doesn't even matter at all. Nothing. What matters is that we have people in place that are doing what they have set out to do. They're coming together as a team. They're trying to figure out where deficits are so we can fill those voids. And they're doing it in very creative ways. Like when I asked and saw about the K123 or K12 or whatever it's called, because I saw two different things, it was incredible. Like, wow, that's pretty awesome that we can do that in this day and age. And we can make it so that it's viable for students to learn appropriately. So all I gotta say is let's move forward. This is ridiculous. I'm happy to go on the merits of whatever we've approved based on law. And I'm happy to go back and forth on what's going on and where we're going as a district, but to go back and rehash something I wasn't even a part of, like, come on, ridiculous. Quit wasting everybody's time. And I'm done.
Yeah, I got a little bit too. No, it's tough. It's tough to sit up here. No, I'll start right into the garbage that we had to listen to earlier, because otherwise it's been a great meeting. But I've had my integrity question today, and I've had what I consider a veiled threat. And I also from one, and then I've already been threatened with lawsuits and with loss of privilege and all that garbage they served us with earlier from those two that aren't here to hear the rest of the meeting. So take all of it for what it's worth. But you know what I'm thankful for? I'm thankful for our STARS recipients that go out there and bust their butts and for our community. I'm grateful for you, Sydney, down there. To come in, to participate in this, to have meaningful conversations. And thank you for, that was something I really wanted to do with the mileage, was to get that. And I really appreciate what you had to say on that. I think that was very, very relevant to the discussion. And I'm very impressed with your resume and man, keep doing it. You've got such a bright future ahead of you. So thank you. And thank you for your participation tonight. I want to thank all the staff, these reports that you guys did and everything that's got us moving forward. Like you said, increasing transparency in all levels, financial, educational, everything, even the numbers that we're not proud of. I had to sit through a meeting last week in West Wendover, and our high school sits at 49% when 70 is or below is unacceptable in different things. And we have that out there. We're not hiding that. We're trying to move forward and bring that out to the folks so we can fix it, so we can move ahead, so we can find solutions, so we can think outside of the box. But lastly, and most importantly, I'm thankful for each and every one of you guys. Josh, for your insight, for your experience, for growing up here and knowing what it's like and bringing that to the board. Because I don't know that. I'm not, I'm a transplant. Ira, just for picking me, for giving me that opportunity, even though you never knew me. And I don't think even between now and then that we've I didn't know you before. I really don't know you as much now other than the meetings. We don't interact other than for the good of the kids here. Matt, your ability to just go into these documents, your recall, your passion for really go. I am going to confess that I lean on you a lot with different questions and things like that. I kind of defer because I know that you're going to ask it. If you don't, then I'll catch it. But, I think you're on a 99% success rate there of finding all those little things and a lot of things that I don't catch. So I'm so thankful for you to that. And Susan, for you stepping out to every school, for your educational background and your insight on everything. I mean, we have a great board up here, and not one of them has ever called me and asked me to vote, or text me and asked me to vote, or even really discussed a vote on one single thing in an entire year. And we've had those opportunities, but it doesn't come up when we talk. It's, hey, how's your family? How's your wife? How's your, and we keep it at the board meetings and we do it correctly. So to have my integrity question really pisses me off. And I'll leave it at that. Other than that, I swear on the Bible right now that I've never, ever had anybody approach me to rubber stamp or vote a certain way or whatever. We all do this and we all put our own effort in. and everybody up here does it. And I'm proud of the service that I put in this past year. No matter what happens come November, I feel good about what I've done here and what I've tried to do for the district and for the kids and everything. And I feel great about what all you folks have done too. So I just want to put that on the record. That's all I have.
Sydney, you want to add? That's a tough one to follow. Okay.
We might note that she mentioned that she might want to be an English teacher, so maybe we should start recruiting her now.
Ooh.
Do it.
Go.
See that gentleman that
Not to put you on the spot.
All right, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
There's a lot of love going on up here. I also appreciate the good work that everybody does here, and I think I went on my integrity rant last meeting, so I'm not going to do it again. I feel comfortable about every decision I make and everything I do with my team. We're honest, hardworking people who want the best for kids, and someone faults us for that, then like you said, other fruits, you shall know them. Just see what makes sense. So we're up here doing good work and I feel good about it. We have a long way to go. That being said, you mentioned something about we're not hiding from anything. We're putting that data front and center. We're putting our school building scores front and center, and we're going to talk about how we can address those things. And sometimes that can upset people, but that's part of that, the growing pains and the pain points of moving forward is you gotta recognize the ugly and try to work on it and see what we can do. It's a process, and we're about that process. So hopefully we can continue to do that together for a while. So superintendent's report. Just a note on the MGT meetings. I'm going to give like an apology, but also not an apology, just like a disclaimer maybe. I think that some people were a little disappointed with how the MGT meetings went, from like the content of them. I was disappointed for how many people were at most of the meetings, but recognizing there's homecoming stuff going on. People have games, people have jobs, you have lives, right? I get it. But the content of the meetings was not quite what everyone expected. I think a lot of people were expecting an hour-long opportunity to talk about what they wanted at their exact site. And that's not exactly what it was. The meeting was an explanation of what their process was. And at the end, there was an opportunity for input. They did like a neat little poll thing, which didn't work out great and went over pretty much everywhere else. That poll everywhere thing worked just fine. They got a lot of great feedback. My wife was writing paragraphs once when she realized if you just like didn't put space between words, you could give like a really long one-word response. She's clever. People were able to give input. We will be ready by the end of the week to put out that MGT survey. We're not going to do it until next week because our 4-day survey, which I'll talk about in a second, is still running through the end of this week. And I don't want any survey confusion or fatigue or what. I mean, there's a lot going on right now, and that's just the reality, but we're going to try not to overlap. So, yeah, that survey will be coming out, and that's a true opportunity as well for people to just voice everything about your individual school that you think from a facility standpoint needs some work. And that'll all be part of that report that we get at the end of MGT. So that's what I want to say about that. Couple neat things I got to go to in Spring Creek last Friday. We had our Southwest Gas ribbon cutting ceremony. So all of our Spring Creek schools are now on natural gas, which represents a cost saving, represents a reliability improvement, represents a little less work with permitting. There's like a lot of benefits to this. And so it was a wonderful event. Spring Creek brought the cheerleaders were there, the band played their song. We had a couple of county commissioners were there. It was great to see Mr. Andriozzi and Mr. Steninger. Yeah, I was going to say Stein, but I know it's not Steninger. And representatives from Southwest Gas, from the contractor that worked on that project. So a lot of people out there. It was great community support, and it was kind of the beginning. It was a great kickoff to a day where Spring Creek had a bunch of games and their pep rally assembly and their parade where all the little kids are at the field. And it was like an awesome day. And so anyway, great day, but it was awesome to officially kick off having natural gas at all of our schools in Spring Creek. And my understanding is they're now going to start feeding out to more homes in the area. So it's good for Spring Creek. I had a dinner with some of the wonderful ladies from the Delta Kappa Gamma. I guess it's like a sorority or organization. I'm not sure what the right word is, but it's a Susan, you're part of that, aren't you? Yeah. So it's an organization of women who are either current or former teachers. In fact, Robbie, right? Is that? Yep. Robbie was there as well. It was nice to meet her yesterday. And these are all women who care very much about the state of education in Elko County. And while they ate and peppered me with questions, I sat up in the high stool in the room and we talked with them, and it was just a great conversation. And I couldn't help but feel like Ken mentioned earlier, sorry, Dr. Higby mentioned earlier, we just have the greatest people, and we honestly do. They're so awesome. And they could have asked me any question. They took it easy on me and just asked some pretty easy questions to answer and feeling me out. But they're awesome, and I appreciate them and all of our teachers that dedicate their time to the education of our students. And thanks to those who like you, Robbie, and like you, Susan, who, you don't have to be doing it anymore, but you do because you care. And so I really appreciate that. Not last, but I'll talk about this next, is the 4-day survey progress. So I'm not going to give percentages of yeses or nos right now. I don't want to mess with anything. So I'm just going to tell you where we're at with the participation rate from people. So 2 weeks ago, as you'll recall, we had, I don't have it written here, Jeff, quit snooping. About 2 weeks ago, we made the surveys live. We sent a survey via just email to all staff with a survey link that they would have to collect their ECSD email address to verify that they're a staff member. We sent one to all students all students in middle school or, through high school. That was sent to them via Infinite Campus. So they would have got an email through Infinite Campus with a survey link. And parents, it was a little more complicated how we wanted to. I wanted to make sure there was integrity in the survey, that someone couldn't just forward that on to someone else and try to find a way to make sure the right people were getting that survey and we're hearing from the right people. So we went through Infinite Campus as well. It requires parents to be able to, they have to go into their parent portal where they can check their kids' grades and they can check their kids' attendance. And I would like to think that a vast majority of our parents would want to be on a portal like that. I know my poor kids are acutely aware of my familiarity with Infinite Campus. Did I see a 77 on a quiz, son? They get that text when I see it. So the same place where a parent would check those emails, their kids' grades, attendance, all that, the survey's right there, and it's been there for a couple of weeks. So we sent a reminder today out to parents again. We will ask our schools to help because we have through Sunday of this week I guess we could leave it open for however long we want, but that's kind of what we designated, was that timeline of 3 weeks. We're 2.5 weeks into that almost. So really love to get more participation from staff. And these numbers were as of yesterday afternoon. I don't run them every hour on the hour or anything like that. But as of yesterday afternoon, our staff participation rate was up to 71%, which is awesome. That's an amazing participation rate. And I have sent multiple asks and reminders to principals to continue to ask their staff to participate. Just want to show that we're not. Nope. And I am literally the only one who's seen any of this stuff. Not another central office admin, not a board member, not a nobody. Nobody has seen anything about this except for me. And I'm sure we'll get more participation from them between now and Sunday. From a student perspective, we've received just about 37% of students, secondary students. So that number is pretty low in my estimation. I would like to hear from more students about how they feel. I did ask just today trying to get creative with the administrators with the few days we have left in the week. Can they maybe work through an advisory period? This is like a 3-minute survey. Like it takes almost no time at all. So maybe going through a content area, going through an advisory period, something to get a bunch more kids to take the survey. And then for parents, we were sitting at right about 13% of parents in the community that have responded to the survey. That number is really low, and I'm not sure if that's my fault because we went through Infinite Campus, but I have a hard time trusting the integrity of a survey that anybody at any point from anywhere can grab onto and vote, or someone could vote 5 times, or someone could pass that on to their sisters and brothers, and everybody can go ahead and vote. Like I don't know. So we may have to come up with another option for how to do that. As I mentioned early on in this process, this is part of the difficulty. I'm not saying why we shouldn't do it, but the difficulty of doing it in a big area. Ken Higby went through this in another district, but it was a very small district. And when there's only 150 families in a community, you can look and say, hey, we're missing these 20. That's my cousin. I can go talk to him and get him to take it. Oh, I go to church with those 4 people. I can ask them. That person's my neighbor. I can ask them. And you work through that list pretty quickly. We have 8,806 parents that got this email, and 1,128 had responded to it. So to manually go through 7,678 that's tough to do. So we may have to come up with another method than the one I came up with. I anticipated this might be a problem, but I'm open to suggestions about how to get more participation without compromising the validity of the survey, because we do want to get those results. And I know it was important to the board to have a good representation from all parties. And right now we have great representation from one, okay representation from another, and poor representation from another. So we're going to continue to work on that. I want to make it clear, we have not put something out there and said, let's see what happens. We have made diligent efforts to remind people. The Facebook post went out today. Like I said, I've been emailing the admins. Students will get a reminder through their schools. So we're doing the best we can to try to get that word out there. And I've been all along communicating with some of our with one of our teacher representatives who came and presented to us as well. So she's aware of where we are, what we're doing. I'm in contact with them. We're trying to help facilitate a process for them. So that's where we are with that. And then the last one, and if anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But the last item I wanted to mention is, so our district participates in the Title VI grant, which is Indian Education Formula Grant. And that grant is required to have a parent advisory committee. And that committee currently has 3 vacancies which need to be filled. One of those is the vice chairperson, one of those is a parent committee member, and one of those is a student committee member. So just for the public, for you to share the word. Cassie Stalkey asked me to share that plea out there, and I'll do it in other ways I have of communicating as well. We all will, but it'd be great if we could get some more membership there to make sure they can help make decisions on how we utilize those funds properly and the best way we can for that portion of our student population. So that's all I had for my superintendent's report today. If anyone has any questions.
Questions, comments? I was just going to ask on the survey. You'd mentioned but how much longer are we going to be running that? Or is that still kind of up in the air?
We communicated that it would be through October 2nd, which is this coming Sunday. We set a 3-week window. But I mean, we can extend it. It's just what you find with surveys most of the time, as Cody and Ray and I have learned from talking with the people from Qualtrics and WSA, is that the other one? Yeah. The surveys are typically like a 2-week window. So I felt like that was a little abbreviated for the number of respondents we're looking for. But I wonder how much more we're going to get if we leave it 4 weeks, if we leave it 5 weeks, if we leave it 6, you know what I mean? Like, did we already kind of max out at what we're going to max out? And there's a few trickling in every day, but how long do you want to wait with a few coming in here and there, especially when you're waiting on 7,000? So we can revisit that. I don't have them set to close per se at that day, and it's easily manipulated to where we could just leave it open and we'll just remind people, hey, we want to hear more. We're going to leave it open another week. Like we can do stuff like that. And but if the current strategy hasn't worked, instead of banging my head against the same wall, we might try to think of something else. But yeah, we can leave it open
That's,
longer.
just so I can figure out how I'm gonna help push it. So that's gives me the info I need.
I would love to, yeah, the reminder we sent out to people today and the Facebook post that went out today details that it's going through the rest of this week through October 2nd. So hopefully, and sometimes people just, you get something in your box from the school and, oh, I got another email from the school. You didn't really pay attention to it. So we're reminding, if you haven't done it yet, jump in there and take the survey. When I say it is a 3-minute survey, that's probably actually
twice as long.
That's too long. It's, are you in favor? Yes, no, or undecided. It's why, and it is, what school does your kid go to? That's it. So 2 of those are clicks and one of them is a little bit of a and you're done.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, we have a lot of surveys that are going to be coming out. So I don't want it to get confused. I don't want survey fatigue, I think is how you said it. Just because in the strategic planning one, we talked about a survey as well. So sounds like
this one doesn't have a
survey
clever name. It says like 4-day survey. So it shouldn't be confused with another type, but and we intentionally got this one done before because we knew we'd be doing these other ones down the line. We're going to be doing an employee survey as we talked about. We're going to be doing strategic planning ones. We've got MGT's got one, right? Like, so we're trying to time them right, but this one was, I know how important it is to a lot of people. So we got it out there first and foremost. And we've got what we've got so far, and we're going to continue to try to push.
So thinking along the lines of your advisory class or whatever for the secondary students, what's the percentage of parents that participate in parent-teacher conferences? Not that I want to extend those anymore for the teachers.
Yeah, that actually was brought up by someone as a suggestion. Unfortunately, like the higher the grade level goes, the less likely you are to get a parent at a parent-teacher conference. Just in general, from my experience as administrator, and it varies from school to school. Like in Wells, at Wells Elementary, we'd get like 97 to 100% participation, right? But when you do parent-teacher conferences at the high school, it's like, hey, I got one. So on the surface, like it'll be great for the kids that are in elementary schools. And there's a lot of overlap. Like I have a kid at elementary and I have a kid at a high school, right? So we're capturing that parent either way. So yeah, that would be something if, but those don't happen until early November. But if we find ourselves in a situation where, hey, if we could just get a little bit more and we push those through the elementary schools and just have that Chromebook just sitting right there. Hey, before we get going, could you really quick, if you haven't done it yet, could you real quick just go ahead and do this? Yeah, we could probably do something like that. That's a good idea. But again, it would probably only capture those who are in the elementary realm.
maybe Sydney has ideas.
Oh, okay.
Taking the
Conferences?
survey.
Our advisories are usually on Mondays. And we've been doing, our last advisory was like a suicide prevention thing, and it's like anti-bullying usually. But I think maybe in like a required class, like an English class or math class, it'd be easier to get student participation.
Yeah, every English or math teacher right now is going, no, why did you say that? Because you can tell she's been in the schools for a while, because that's typically how we do those things when we want to capture kids. And that was in the email I sent to the principals. I said something along those lines of advisory or a core content area. Like, yeah, that's something we try to do.
Suggestion for parents?
Maybe have like, the automated calls, maybe a reminder call to parents about checking their email for service.
Did you remind your parents to take the survey? Thank you.
You're all over parent portal, aren't you?
Sure.
So how many families are doing that where take the survey?
So I don't have a number of how many households are single homes. Sure, there could be plenty of those. Maybe we can make that part of our kind of last push communication, make sure it's clear. Yep.
I think that phone call is a great idea simply because I'd be like, hey, did my kid miss school today? You know, on the caller ID, and then
it's something we talked about today too, is kind of like so we did the reminder email this afternoon, and we were anticipating sort of like a last push with a phone call on Friday or something like that. And oftentimes people do pay more attention to something that comes from, if your kid goes to Spring Creek High and something comes from Spring Creek High, maybe you're more apt to pay attention to it than if it comes from who's Clayton Anderson, right? Like, or Infinite Campus. You're like, oh, that's about my kid's absence from a week ago. And you don't really pay attention to it. So, yeah, well, again, we're going to try lots of different things. Yeah, just doing math in my head, Brooke, to your point, even if we just said, we'll go ahead and chop that in half. Let's say only one person in each household's participating. We cut that 8,800 down to 4,400. We're still sitting at barely 20 to 25% of people, which in my opinion still isn't enough. I'd like to see that be higher. That's my personal opinion. Good point though. I've thought about that.
All right. Moving on to agenda item 6.01, approval of the accounts payable.
I'd like to move that we approve both accounts payable and the Wells Rural accounts payable is listed on agenda item 6.01.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve both of the accounts payable. Any comment? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye and accounts payable passes. Agenda item 7.01.
Thanks for getting your steps in, Julie.
The last chance for input from the public. Is there anybody who wishes to address the? Nope.
No, please.
Sorry, okay. First, I just want to thank you guys for implementing this program so that it offers these students an opportunity to see how a government entity works, because I think at times not everyone understands the process. I think that's where a lot of issues come up, even with parents, is that for whatever reason, they may not remember being taught these things in government. I don't know. I was telling Sydney, excuse me, I went to school to socialize. I'll be honest. But I still remember the process of how government entities work. So thank you for that. And thank you to our high schools and our principals and to our government teachers for taking that time to teach them. I had a thought when Jeff was talking about moving past, just going forward. I'm a huge John Wayne fan. So this quote came to mind, and he said, "Tomorrow is the most important thing in life. It comes to us at midnight, very clean. It's perfect when it arrives, and it puts itself in our hands. It hopes we've learned something from yesterday." And I just thought that goes right along with that, because it doesn't matter who or what or where you were at during the pandemic. We were all affected in different ways. We all had our own vices, our own things that we wished could have been handled in different directions, even in our own lives. And the thing is we need to learn to move forward and realize that the number one goal for this board and the number one goal for from our teachers, from our principals, from anyone that works in education, and for our parents especially, the number one thing and goal should be our students. That is what our priority should be, because our students are going to be sitting in these seats and they need to know how the process works. They need to understand how to be able to listen, to take in consideration others' opinions, and to understand. Is that my time? Sorry. But just know that is where our priority needs to be. And although others were hurt, and I understand their hurt, and I understand the pain, we all went through it. But at the end of the day, we need to move past that and think about the future of what's going to be sitting here. So thank you. Oh, sorry. My name is Catherine Borg. So now I can get my hate email too. So
I hope not.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, I apologize. There were a couple of things that I did forget because I was on a soapbox. Ballots, if you did not opt out, get mailed by the county clerk on Thursday. So ballots are coming out already. There are 3 forums that the Elko Chamber of Commerce are putting on. One of them specific to Elko. There's an assembly forum that I think covers most of Elko County, if not all of Elko County. That'll be October 6th. And school board forum will be October 18. Both will open doors at 5 o'clock. Forum starts at 5:30 and will be at the convention center, the conference center here in Elko.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 8.01, adjournment of the meeting.